Chapter 174. After returning to the prefecture capital, Li Mu finally had a few days of peace. All the constables who went to Yang County had half a month of vacation after returning. In this month, they spent most of their time outside. Li Mu finally had enough time to stay at home and spend time with Lu Hanyan and Wan Wan. However, while he was free, Lu Hanyan was busy. The Yunyan Pavilion was especially busy these days. The tea house was filled with customers from morning to night. In this half a month, the story of the evil spirit descending from Yang County, washing the county government with blood, killing corrupt officials, and killing evil officials had spread throughout the North County. The North County government did not deliberately hide this matter, so it was not difficult for the people to find out the inside story. It was said that the evil spirit was just an ordinary girl. Because she heard Do Yi's injustice in the Yunyan Pavilion tea house, she was wronged by the corrupt official of Yang County. Before she died, she imitated Do Yi and cursed at the sky, swearing that she would become a vengeful spirit after death. Her resentment and her vow moved the heavens and earth, causing them to pity her and turn her into a vengeful spirit. Taking revenge was simply too satisfying. After the news spread, countless people rushed to the Yunyan Pavilion, asking to hear Do Yi's injustice. Li Mu originally had some misgivings, but Constable Zhao personally went to the Yunyan Pavilion and passed on the orders of the county governor. Not only did the North County have to promote the story of Do Yi's injustice, but they also had to adapt it into an opera. It was said that the Empress was behind this. From this, Li Mu could see the determination of the Empress to clean up the officialdom. She wanted to use Do Yi's injustice and Su Xiaoyu's matter to intimidate the officials of the 36 counties in the Great Zhou. She wanted to make these officials respect the lives of the people at all times and reduce the number of wrongful cases. This was beneficial to gathering the people's hearts and gathering their willpower. As for the county magistrate of Yang County, he was set as a negative example. A stone statue of him was placed in front of the Yang County government. It would be cursed by the people and would be recorded in history forever. This action caused the imperial court's popularity in the Yang County, and even the northern county to rise to unprecedented heights. Every day, the people who came to pay their respects to the state temple in the county city would line up several miles away from the entrance of the state temple. Some people would even wait outside the next night just to be the first to enter the next day. In recent days, the number of people in the state temple had exceeded that of any other Taoist temple. As for Li Mu, he also experienced the feeling of being famous. The North County officials obviously had to follow the emperor's orders and spread the news. However, the reason for this was actually a scandal in the Northern County and even the imperial court. After all, this happened in the Northern County. Strictly speaking, it was because the county governor and the county minister didn't do enough. If the county city had restrained the county magistrate earlier, this kind of injustice wouldn't have happened. Therefore, they could only find another way and push Li Mu out, creating the image of an upright minor official who was not afraid of power, dared to resist the darkness, and fought against the ugly forces. It was just the right time to shift the focus. It was Li Mu who said that Do Yi was wronged. That evil spirit was born because of Do Yi's injustice. Coincidentally, Li Mu was a constable in the county office and was someone from the imperial court. He could represent the county office and the imperial court. This way, as long as the imperial court handled this case well and didn't cause too much resentment, Li Mu's light would cover the darkness of the Yang County office. Furthermore, this case that was originally the fault of the Northern County and a stain on the imperial court had become a good thing that was worth flaunting. It was also a way to gather people's hearts. Li Mu didn't want to be high profile, but when he walked on the streets, the people around him looked at him with admiration. He didn't need to take the initiative to guide them, and there was an endless stream of psychokinesis gathering on his body. He had nothing to say. This psychokinesis came from the trust of the people. If it could be maintained for a long time, it would be a very strong force. Even if it was immortal, with such strong psychokinesis, they could make demons retreat. Li Mu walked to the entrance of the county office. When the two constables saw him, they immediately said, "Greetings, Constable Li." After returning to the county office, County Magistrate Shun promoted Li Mu. Currently, he didn't have any constables under him and was directly responsible to County Magistrate Shen. Li Mu smiled at the two constables and walked into the county office. One of the constables looked at him and said with admiration, "When Constable Li first entered the county office, I knew that he was brave, but I didn't know that he was so brave. Not only did he scold the imperial court, he even dared to scold the heavens and earth." The other constables said enviously, "Constable Li is really a winner in life. He's only been here for 2 to 3 months and he's already been promoted to constable. He even has so many beauties by his side. I heard that the female shopkeeper of the Yunyan Pavilion and the 2 daughters of the White Demon King are his women." Li Mu walked into the front hall. As expected, County Magistrate Shen was drinking. When he raised his head and saw Li Mu, he was slightly excited. He waved his hand and said, "Li Mu, you're here. Come and drink with me." "No, no." Li Mu waved his hand and said, "I'm actually here to receive my reward. If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten." County Magistrate Shen put down the wine pot and said, "You killed 4 of Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's ghost generals. I've already reported to the county magistrate and allowed you to enter the Earth Room to choose 4 things. I guess the Imperial Court will also reward you, but I'm afraid you'll have to wait for a few days." Li Mu was already familiar with the Xian Room in the county office's treasury. However, this was his first time in the Earth Room. There were much fewer things here than in the Xian Room. On the shelf where the Fulu was placed, there were only a few pieces of Earth Fulu. Under normal circumstances, only Fortune Realm and See-Through Realm cultivators were able to write Earth-rank talismans. Earth-rank talismans were divided into 3 ranks, and the talismans here were all Earth-rank low-grade. County Magistrate Shen introduced them one by one. This is the Purple Cloud Thunder Talisman. A thunder technique is sealed in it. It can kill 4th realm demonic ghosts. It shouldn't be of much use to you. After all, you can kill ghost generals of the Vile Soul Realm without the help of the Fulu. After refining the soul energy of the 4 ghost generals, Li Mu's 3 spiritual souls were very condensed. He could advance to the Congregate Realm at any time. When that time comes, he would be able to release Purple Thunder with his own mana. Of course, he would not use this opportunity on the Purple Cloud Thunder Talisman. County Magistrate Shen continued, "This is the Sword Talisman. A sword technique is sealed in it. It has the power of a Creation Realm cultivator. It can also kill 4th realm cultivators. You don't have to think about it. This is the 5 Elements Escape Talisman. Activating this talisman will allow you to use the 5 Elements Escape technique for 2 hours. This is the Earth Low-Grade Divine Travel Talisman. Activating it with a Congregate Realm cultivator will allow you to travel at a speed comparable to that of Dongxian cultivators. However, it can only last for 1 hour." County Magistrate Shen introduced them one by one. After careful consideration, Li Mu chose the Low-Grade Divine Travel Talisman. The Earth Low-Grade Fulu could unleash the power of a Creation Realm cultivator and could kill 4th realm cultivators instantly. However, Li Mu could also suppress 4th realm cultivators with the help of Madame Chu. All the offensive Fulu were useless to him. However, the Earth Low-Grade Divine Travel Talisman was of great use to him. If he had this talisman with him that day, he would not have been chased by the first ghost general for so long and had to seek help from the White Demon King to escape. After choosing the Fulu, Li Mu looked at the row of Dharma treasures. The value of an Earth Low-Grade Dharma treasure was higher than the Fulu and elixir pills of the same grade. After all, the latter 2 could only be used once. If the Dharma treasure was cherished, it could send away several owners. Therefore, the Dharma treasures placed in the Earth Low-Grade Dharma rooms were only mystic-level superior-grade Dharma treasures. Of course, a Dharma treasure of this grade was much better than Li Mu's Bai. Bai was only a mystic-level inferior-grade Dharma treasure. However, its significance to Li Mu could not be measured by its grade. Li Mu did not choose a weapon. Instead, he chose an auxiliary flying boat Dharma treasure. Although sword kinesis flight was elegant, it could not carry people. The flying boat speed was not slow. It could be big or small. It was a type of Dharma treasure that cultivators loved to use as a means of transportation. When Li Mu thought about how he could use it to take Lu Hanyan, Wan Wan, and Xiao Bai on a scenic tour in his spare time and sleep on the boat when he was tired, he did not hesitate to choose it. County Lieutenant Shen walked to the next row of wooden shelves and continued to introduce. These elixirs can be divided into 4 categories. The first category is to strengthen one's foundation and improve one's Dharma power. The second category is usually used for healing. The third category is used in fights. After it explodes, it will be extraordinarily powerful. The last category is for special purposes such as the Soul Nurturing Elixir and the Demon Transformation Elixir. You will not be able to use them. Li Mu picked up a milky white porcelain bottle and asked, "What is the Demon Transformation Elixir?" County Lieutenant Shen explained, "This elixir can dissolve the demon aura on demons. Cultivators will not be able to discover their demon identity unless they deliberately open their third eye. Some of the officials and nobles in Zhong province, who like demons, will let them consume this elixir to prevent them from being accidentally injured by cultivators." Li Mu put away the elixir and said, "I'll take this." With this elixir, the demon aura on Xiao Bai's body could be completely dissolved. She would not have to hide her aura and stay at home every day. She could happily go shopping and listen to music with Wan Wan. County Lieutenant Shen looked at him and said, "If you want it, I'm afraid one elixir is not enough." Chapter 175. That's enough. Only Xiao Bai could use this kind of elixir. Li Mu glanced at the many porcelain bottles on the shelf and asked, "Does the county government have any elixirs that can help ghosts condense their bodies?" County Magistrate Shen looked at him thoughtfully. After a while, he asked, "You even have ghosts in your house?" Li Mu said, "I'm just asking." County Magistrate Shen's eyes seemed to have a deeper meaning. He said, "Ghosts don't need elixirs to condense their bodies. Third realm evil spirits can condense their bodies by themselves. Ghost cultivators in the soul realm can condense their bodies no different from ordinary people. It's said that ghosts in the ninth realm can reverse life and death and reconstruct their bodies. However, I've only heard of it. I've never seen it." "Then forget it." Li Mu originally thought that if there really was such an elixir, he could save one for Suhi. Since there was no such elixir, he didn't want to waste this opportunity to choose. Fulu, Dharma treasure, and elixir, he chose one of each. Last chance, Li Mu chose high-quality spiritual jades. The Fulu and Dharma treasure were his, the demon transformation elixir was for Xiao Bai, and the spiritual jades were for Lu Hanyan and Wan Wan. Everyone had a share. County Magistrate Shen looked at the shelves and said, "Fortunately, you don't have to pay for the reward given by the imperial court. Otherwise, this earth pavilion would have been emptied by you." Carrying the heavy spiritual jades back home, Li Mu immediately realized that Zhang County magistrates had advised him to come to the county government for his sake. Compared to the county government was really rich. Not only could it satisfy his cultivation resources, but it could also support a large family. After tasting the benefits, Li Mu began to think about the remaining 12 ghost generals under his command. Li Mu hadn't used up all of the soul power from the 4 ghost generals. He still had some left and had successfully helped Lu Hanyan condense her first soul. After killing 2 more ghost generals, the 2 of them would be able to advance to the conglomerate realm. When their spiritual power reached the peak of the Jushen realm, they could begin to cultivate together. With the help of the pure yang and pure yin bodies, they could break through to the middle realm. Li Mu gave half of the spiritual jades to Lu Hanyan and said, "Leave the Yunyan pavilion to Zhang Shan. Cultivate well and try to reach the Jushen realm." Lu Hanyan held the spiritual jades in her hand as she cultivated. Li Mu walked to Xiao Bai's room and handed her the porcelain bottle. He said, "There is a demon transformation pill in here. After you eat it, the demon aura in your body will be dissolved and you won't be seen by other cultivators. You can go out and play with Wan Wan in the future." Li Mu originally wanted to wait for Xiao Bai to transform before teaching her the Buddhist scriptures. Later, he learned that the Heavenly Fox clan had their own unique cultivation methods. Their cultivation methods were enough for them to reach the 9th realm. They didn't need to cultivate these unorthodox methods. The 4 paths of Buddhism, Taoism, demon, and ghost could all be cultivated to the 9th level. As for the other paths of cultivation, they had long been eliminated by the cultivation world, either due to the lack of subsequent cultivation methods or their own flaws. Although the Fox Demon clan was also a demon, they didn't walk the demon path. A clan that was independent of the Buddhist, Taoist, demon, and ghost paths and had their own 9th realm inheritance was extremely extraordinary. Once a fox demon could reach the upper 3 realms, it would definitely cause a commotion in the cultivation world. Xiao Bai sat cross-legged on the bed and took the porcelain bottle. She said obediently, "Thank you, benefactor." Li Mu said, "Take it now. I'll protect you." The higher the grade of the pill, the stronger the spiritual energy it contained. Taking it would be dangerous and required someone to protect her. Xiao Bai swallowed the demon transformation pill and the aura in her body began to surge. Li Mu sat cross-legged behind her and placed his hand on her back. He used his own dermic powers to help her calm down the surging spiritual energy in her body. The spiritual energy in her body gradually calmed down and the demon aura also gradually faded until it finally disappeared. Li Mu couldn't detect any trace of demon aura from her body. Without using his heavenly eye, he couldn't see her true form. After transforming, Xiaobai cultivated even more diligently. Li Mu knew the reason why she was cultivating so hard. The human cultivator who injured the rat demon's wife was in the transcendent realm. Only by cultivating the fourth tail would she have any hope of revenge. He left half of the remaining spiritual jade for her and stroked her head. He said, "Cultivation needs Zhang Yu Qi. You don't have to work so hard." Xiaobai rubbed her head against Li Mu's head and curled up in his arms. Before she transformed, she loved to lie in Li Mu's arms like this and let Li Mu gently stroke her fur. Li Mu was already used to it. Now, being snuggled up by such a delicate girl, Li Mu couldn't be the same as before. Xiaobai also seemed to realize something. In the next moment, Li Mu felt his arms lighten and there was only a piece of clothing left. A small white head poked out from under the clothing. Xiaobai whispered, "This way, Sister Lu won't quarrel with benefactor." Although the girl and the little fox were both her, Lu Hanyan clearly wouldn't be jealous of a fox. Xiaobai's growth surprised and pained Li Mu. As usual, he gently stroked her fur. Xiaobai closed her eyes and quietly nestled in his arms. Before long, Lu Hanyan walked in from outside. Seeing Xiaobai in Li Mu's arms, she said in surprise, "Xiaobai, why did you change back? Come, let me hug you." Xiaobai obediently came out from Li Mu's arms and jumped into her arms. Lu Hanyan hugged her and lovingly stroked her head. Then she said to Li Mu, "Someone from the yamen just came and asked you to go to the county yamen." Li Mu thought that there was a case. When he arrived at the yamen, he went straight to the front hall and asked County Magistrate Shen, "Sir, what happened?" County Magistrate Shen burped and walked to the back hall. He said, "It's nothing. Someone wants to see you. Go and see for yourself." Li Mu walked to the back hall and saw a familiar figure. After being stunned for a moment, he strode forward and asked, "Why are you here?" As soon as he finished speaking, he looked around expectantly. Hanja shook his head and said, "Don't look. She's not here." Li Mu looked away and punched Hanja's shoulder. He asked, "Why did you go down the mountain?" Hanja glanced at him and said, "It's because of you." Li Mu was stunned. "Me?" Hanja looked at him and said, "I went down the mountain this time under the orders of the headmaster and the chief to see you." Li Mu was not convinced. He said, "Are you saying that the headmaster of the F. Lu school asked you to see me?" As far as Li Mu knew, the chief of the F. Lu school was a transcendent powerhouse, a true upper realm powerhouse. To Li Mu, the powerful and invincible thousand illusion Shongren was just a slightly stronger ant in front of a transcendent powerhouse. How could such an existence know about him? You don't have to doubt it. I was indeed ordered by the headmaster to come to the county yamen to see you. Hanja looked at him and said, "It's not just the headmaster. In all of Mount Bai Yun, in the ancestral court of F. Lu School, there is no one who doesn't know your name. In the cultivation world, besides you, there is no second person who dares to point at the heavens and curse the earth." Li Mu glanced at him and said, "Enough nonsense. What business does the F. Lu School's headmaster have with me?" Hanja asked, "Do you want to become a disciple of the F. Lu School?" Li Mu shook his head and said, "I don't want to." Several months ago in Yangqiu County, the chief of the fifth branch of the ancestral court of F. Lu School, Daoist Tianjinko, and the chief of the fifth branch of the Xuanzong, Daoist Miao Dun, both invited Li Mu once, but he refused. At that time, Li Mu wanted to be free. This time, although the reason for his refusal was different, the result was the same. Hanja didn't expect Li Mu's reaction to be so calm. He asked in surprise, "Why?" Li Mu said, "I'm doing well in the county yamen. I have no interest in joining any sect." Hanja looked at him and asked, "Don't you want to see her?" Li Mu was silent for a moment, then asked, "Is she doing well?" Hanja shook his head and said, "I don't know." After junior sister Li advanced to the divine power stage, she left the sect. Li Mu didn't expect Li Qing to advance to the divine power stage so quickly, nor did he expect her to leave the F. Lu school. Hanja sighed and said, "I've never seen anyone cultivate as hard as she does. Among the younger generation of disciples, her cultivation can be ranked in the top 5, but her effort in cultivation is undeniably number 1. Until now, I still don't know why she's working so hard in cultivation. She didn't say where she went? No. The sect doesn't have many restrictions on the divine power stage disciples. Everyone has their own destiny. Junior sister Li is focused on the Tao. Perhaps she went to find an opportunity to advance. Let's not talk about this. Hanja waved his hand and said, let's talk about you. I just heard from the constables that you've hooked up with a rich woman and 2 snake sisters. Chapter 176. Li Mu waved his hand and said, don't listen to their nonsense. Hanja said, I think they are telling the truth. They don't seem to be lying. A young girl walked in from outside and looked at Li Mu curiously. She asked Hanja, Senior brother Hanja, is he your friend who created the Taoist technique? Hanja nodded and introduced her to Li Mu. This is junior sister Qin, senior brother Qin's younger sister. She insisted on following me down the mountain. Speaking of senior brother Qin, Hanja couldn't help but feel sad. Li Mu patted his shoulder and said, I'll go call Zhang Shan and Li Si. Let's go out and have a drink. Hanja smiled and asked, they are also in the county capital? Reuniting with old friends was something worth celebrating. Although Li Mu and Hanja didn't get along well, they had gone through a few life-and-death situations together and had formed a friendship. Zhang Shan was usually at the Yunyan Pavilion. They could go there to find him. Li Si was a bailiff of the county government, but he rarely came here. He spent all his time with Chen Miao Miao. The 3 of them arrived at the county minister's manor and asked the guard at the door to pass on the message. After a while, Chen Miao Miao walked out with Li Si. Hanja looked at Li Si and then at Chen Miao Miao. After a moment of shock, something seemed to have collapsed in the depths of his eyes. Chen Miao Miao sent Li Si to the door and said, Go ahead. I'll wait for you at home. As the 4 of them walked towards the Yunyan Pavilion, Hanja asked in disbelief, That girl just now was, Li Si said. Her name is Miao Miao. She is my fiancée. Hanja was stunned for a while before he shook his head and said, I really didn't expect you to find such a girl. With your ability, I thought you would, Li Si sighed. I didn't think about it before. Maybe this is fate. Hanja let out a sigh. It's only been a few months and all of you have families. I'm the only one who's still alone. Junior sister Qin, who had been following beside him, raised her head and glanced at him. Then, she lowered her head again and didn't say anything. Li Si thought for a moment and asked, Do you want me to introduce you to a few? Hanja said happily, Sure. Li Si said, Miao Miao still has a few cousins. Hanja's expression changed. He looked at Li Mu and said, Li Mu, you have a lot of beautiful women around you. Why don't you introduce one to me? She doesn't need to be as beautiful as Lady Lu. Someone like junior sister Qin is enough. Junior sister Qin gritted her teeth and snorted. Although Li Mu had a lot of beautiful women around him, Lu Hanyan was his, Wan Wan was his, and Xiaobai was also his. The only ones he could introduce to Hanja were Xiang Xiang and Rong Rong from Spring Wind Pavilion. However, Hanja would definitely not marry a prostitute. He shook his head and said, I don't know a beautiful woman suitable for you. Hanja thought for a moment and said, If you don't have a woman, a banshee will do. Do your 2 snakes have any cousins who can transform? I heard that snake demons are good at dancing. I like those who can sing and dance. Li Mu shook his head and said, No. Hanja looked at him disappointedly and said, You are still so stingy. Junior sister Qin snorted and stomped her feet. She walked forward alone. Hanja sighed and said, You said that I'm not ugly and my cultivation is not bad. Why can't I find a dual cultivation partner? Li Si patted his shoulder and said, It doesn't matter if you can't find one now. You will have a chance in your next life. The few of them chose a restaurant beside the Yunyan Pavilion to have their meal. This restaurant was the property of the Su clan. The Su clan's property spread all over the county. Manager Su had taken care of them since Yunyan Pavilion opened. After Hanja sat down, he said to Li Mu seriously, You should seriously consider what I just said. Becoming a disciple of Fu Lu School will be very beneficial to your future cultivation. In recent years, this is the only chance for the headmaster to personally ask. Li Mu smiled and said, I have already thought it through. In order to condense his last soul, he needed to stand among the common people. Moreover, compared to the Green Lamp ancient temple and the mountain, Li Mu preferred to stay in the yamen. Hanja sighed and shook his head. I knew I couldn't persuade you. The headmaster should have sent junior sister Li earlier. Li Mu raised his wine cup and changed the topic. Let's not talk about this. Drink, drink. Hanja's alcohol tolerance was not high. This was something that Li Mu and the others already knew. After drinking a few cups, his chatterbox was completely opened. Li Mu, oh Li Mu, I used to think you were the most cowardly. Now I know I was wrong. Pointing at the heavens and cursing the earth. Who in the great Zhou's cultivation world is more daring than you? You don't know, but a senior brother from the third branch imitated you and cursed the heavens and the earth. In the end, he was struck by lightning and his cultivation was crippled. He almost couldn't be saved. Your name has already spread throughout the 7 branches. We all think that you are the bravest man in the North County, no, in the entire Great Zhou. The various races of the 10 continents and 3 islands all worship the heavens and the earth. Among them, cultivators worship the heavens and the earth the most. Dao techniques, supernatural powers, demon techniques, and ghost techniques all borrowed the power of the heavens and the earth. Whether it was demons, ghosts, spirits, or human cultivators, they all revered the heavens and the earth. When mortals encountered injustice, they would often curse the heavens and the earth for being heartless. However, not many cultivators dared to do so. After all, their power was bestowed by the heavens and the earth. If they disrespected the heavens and the earth, they would easily be punished by the heavens. Li Mu didn't think of this at the time. He thought that there shouldn't be many stupid cultivators who would imitate him. In a dilapidated temple outside the county city, a slovenly Taoist priest in a dirty Taoist robe formed a seal with one hand and pointed at the sky with the other. He shouted, Earth, you can't tell good from bad. What is earth? Heaven, you. Rumble. A purplish-black bolt of lightning descended from the clouds. The Taoist priest's figure disappeared from the spot. The dilapidated temple collapsed with a loud bang, leaving behind only ruins and a huge scorched pit that was dozens of feet deep. In the open space outside the dilapidated temple, there was a flash of light. The Taoist priest's staggering figure appeared. Dark clouds gathered in the sky. Another bolt of lightning descended, striking the Taoist priest's head. The Taoist priest jumped up and down in the open space. He shouted, I was wrong. I was wrong. Don't strike me. I won't dare to curse again. More than 10 bolts of lightning descended before the dark clouds in the sky gradually dissipated. The Taoist priest sat in a scorched pit. His face was full of shock. He muttered, Taoist magic. It's really Taoist magic. It's a pity that I can't learn it. I have to be struck for nothing, he sighed. His face was full of envy. He said bitterly, Why can't it be me? Damn it. How can it be so easy for others to create Taoist magic? When can I transcend? No, I have to ask for advice. Could it be that there's some technique in it? Yuntai County, south of the North County. In a tea house in the county city, the rhythmic voice of a storyteller was heard. Before Doi died, she made 3 great wishes. Blood splattered everywhere, snow in June, and drought for 3 years. Heaven and earth felt wronged. Her 3 vows came true one by one. There were no empty seats in the tea house. If one looked carefully, there were not only ordinary people, but also the county governor of Yuntai County, the county minister, the county lieutenant, and the county magistrate. The storyteller had never seen such a scene before. His heart trembled. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. However, he still had to control his emotions and tell the story honestly. After the story of Doi's injustice, everyone in the tea house was in a heavy mood. The county governor of Yuntai County looked at the people behind him and said, I hope you will take note of what happened in the North County and Yang County. Such things are not allowed to happen in Yuntai County. Yes. More than 10 county magistrates nodded solemnly. Before the evil spirit appeared in the North County, no one would have thought that such a thing would happen. The county magistrate's family was slaughtered. The county magistrate of Yang County was massacred. It was a wake-up call for all of them. If such an evil spirit appeared in their area because they didn't care about human lives, their political achievements would be secondary. What they were afraid of was that the evil spirit would kill them and their families would be wiped out. They would be blamed by the imperial court and their statues would be placed in front of the government office. They would be cursed by tens of thousands of people. A county magistrate sighed and said, This story, Doi's injustice, describes the corruption of some local officials and the fact that they were wrongfully imprisoned. It's a story, but it's a reflection of reality. You and I know about these things, but no one dares to say it. I didn't expect a small official in the North County to be so brave, another county magistrate added. I heard that he's also a cultivator. A cultivator actually dares to point at the heavens and scold the heavens and earth. I don't know if he's young and ignorant or just hot-blooded. Another old county magistrate sighed and said, Emperor Wen used 50 years to create a peaceful era for the Great Zhou. The people's faith reached the peak of the founding of the country. In just a short decade, half of Emperor Wen's efforts were destroyed. Although Her Majesty wants to win back the people's hearts, there are many obstacles in the imperial court. This incident in the North County is enlightening. I hope it can awaken some people's conscience. Don't destroy the hundreds of years of foundation of the Great Zhou for the sake of the imperial court. The evil spirit in the North County seemed to be a matter of the North County, but the meaning behind it was extraordinary. Among them, there was the Empress' determination to clean up the government. There was also the competition between the various forces in the imperial court. Although the result was unknown, this incident was a turning point in the imperial court and would be recorded in the annals of history. Nanyang County, Yunzhong County, Hanyang County, Jiangyin County, Zhejiang County, Yushan County. The story of Dou Yi's injustice was passed down in the 36 counties of the Great Zhou. Perhaps some people had already forgotten the name of the small official in the Yang County, but they would not forget that in the North County, there was a hot-blooded small official who dared to face injustice and scold the heavens and earth. Zhou County, Great Zhou Imperial Palace. A young female official walked into the deep palace and placed a file on the table. She said softly, Your Majesty, this is the file sent by the North County. Behind the table, a white and slender hand opened the file and said softly, Li Mu. Chapter 177. In the deep palace, there was no sound at all. One could hear a pin drop. A moment later, a dignified voice came from the curtain behind the table again. What do you think? The young female official stood with her hands down and said, He's so courageous at such a young age. He can distinguish right from wrong. If he's nurtured, he can be a good official. It's a waste to let him stay in the North County. Behind the table, the slender hand put the file aside and picked up another memorial. You can make the arrangements. The young female official crossed her hands and bowed. Yes, Your Majesty. North County City. Restaurant. When Li Mu picked up his wine cup, he sneezed a few times and rubbed his nose. When he looked across, he saw that Hanja was already lying on the table like a pile of mud. Zhang Shan and Li Si helped him out of the restaurant. Li Mu said to junior sister Qin, I'll leave him to you. Junior sister Qin nodded and asked Li Mu, Are you really not going to Fulu school? I'm not going. Li Mu smiled and said, Help me thank the sect master for his good intentions. All right then. Junior sister Qin carried Hanji on her back and said, We're leaving. Li Mu watched the two of them leave and suddenly felt a little melancholic. Li Si asked, What's wrong? Do you miss your boss? Li Mu did not answer. Li Si patted his shoulder and said, The more you can't get someone, the harder it is to let go. Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't always think about the past. Cherish the present. Seeing Hanja, Li Mu could not help but think of Li Qing. However, it was not like what Li Si had said. In order to prove that he cherished the present, Li Mu personally cooked soup for 4 hours and sent it to Lu Hanyan, who was busy in the Yunyan pavilion. Lu Hanyan was reviewing the manuscript. Without raising her head, she said, Put it aside first. I'll drink it later. It'll be cold soon. Li Mu picked up the spoon and brought it to her mouth, saying, Open your mouth, I'll feed you. Lu Hanyan opened her mouth and drank a mouthful of soup. Suddenly, she looked at Li Mu and asked, Why are you suddenly so nice to me? Did you do something wrong? Li Mu felt inexplicably guilty. Then he shook his head and said, What guilt could I have? I was kind enough to feed you, but you actually doubted me. You can drink the rest yourself. After deceiving Lu Hanyan, Li Mu returned home and prepared to go into seclusion for a few days to fuse his 3 souls into one and completely form his primordial spirit. Although the 3 souls and the primordial spirit were both soul bodies, they were fundamentally different. Before forming the immortal soul, if one's physical body died, he could only become a ghostly cultivator and could not be called a human. Even if one's cultivation reached a high level in the future and reconstructed his body, it would still be fundamentally different from a real mortal body. When ghosts possessed the bodies of living people, it was called possession. When the primordial spirit devoured the souls of others, it could borrow their bodies to be reborn. For cultivators who formed the primordial spirit, as long as their primordial spirit was not destroyed, they were not really dead. Li Mu used a few days to finally fuse his 3 souls into one and form his primordial spirit, stepping into the assembled spirit realm. After that, the cultivation would not be so complicated. Step by step, when the accumulation of mana was enough, he could break through to the middle 3 realms. It was just that this process would be very long. Li Qing's rapid progress was because she had more than 10 years of accumulation before she reached the assembled spirit realm. Under normal circumstances, with Li Mu's cultivation speed, it would take several years to reach the peak of the assembled spirit realm from the early stage. Other than yin and yang dual cultivation, the fastest way to increase the speed of cultivation was to use spiritual jades. Li Mu prepared to go to the county office to see if there were any suitable tasks that he could use to exchange for spiritual jades. At the entrance of the county office, Li Mu met a beggar. After taking a closer look, he found that the beggar was somewhat familiar. Li Mu was stunned for a moment and asked, "Senior, what are you doing here?" The slovenly Taoist priest brushed the messy hair on his forehead and said in surprise, "Why is it you again?" He looked at Li Mu and clicked his tongue. "The first time this old man saw you, you were just an ordinary person. The second time I saw you, you were about to condense your soul. It's only been 2 months, and the third time I saw you, you've already condensed your soul. Your path of cultivation is not small at all." "It's nothing," Li Mu said politely and asked, "Senior, is there anything I can help you with?" "You came at the right time." The Taoist priest pointed inside the county office and said, "There is a person called Li Mu. Is he in your county office? Call him out. I have something to ask him." Li Mu was stunned for a moment and said, "I am." The Taoist priest stared at him and asked, "You are Li Mu, the guy who pointed at the sky and cursed the earth but was not struck by lightning?" Li Mu nodded and said, "That's me." "Come, come, come." The Taoist priest pulled Li Mu to the steps of the side door and sat down. He said expectantly, "Tell me, how did you create that Taoist technique of yours? Do you have any experience to impart to me?" Li Mu was pulled to sit on the steps. He shook his head and said, "I don't have any experience. I just told a story." The Taoist priest scratched his head and said in annoyance, "Damn it. You can create Taoist techniques by telling a story. I have tried for 20 years and didn't even get a fart. This old bastard." In the end, he did not dare to curse the heavens. He covered his mouth and muttered a few words. He sighed and said, "There is no justice, no justice." Li Mu was puzzled and asked, "Senior, do you want to create your own Taoist technique?" The Taoist priest glanced at him and said angrily, "If you don't create your own Taoist technique, how can you transcend?" Li Mu used to guess that the Taoist priest's cultivation should be above the creation realm. Now, he was almost certain that he was a strong person in Dongxian, and not an ordinary Dongxian. It was very likely that he was a cultivator at the peak of Dongxian like the Thousand Illusions Venerable. From Dongxian to transcendence, it was the transformation from the middle 3 realms to the upper 3 realms. Ordinary guidance cultivation could not cross this gap. Only by creating one's own Taoist technique, gaining the recognition of heaven and earth, and being tempered by the power of heaven and earth, could one break through the barrier of Dongxian to transcendence. This was the reason why Miss Xiaoyu's cultivation was at the 5th realm when she had just died. Although this Taoist technique was created by Li Mu, it was not comprehended by Li Mu himself. Li Mu was only borrowing Taoist techniques like the 9 syllables. Otherwise, his current cultivation would be far beyond the spirit condensation realm. If one day he could cultivate to Dongxian, he would also need to comprehend his own Taoist technique before he could go further and step into the upper 3 realms of cultivation. Li Mu cupped his hands at the Taoist priest and said, "Senior, I hope you can comprehend your Taoist technique and transcend as soon as possible." The old man sighed and said, "There's no point in staying in the North County. Kid, I'm leaving. We'll meet again if fate wills it." As soon as the old man finished speaking, his body gradually faded in Li Mu's eyes and finally disappeared completely. Li Mu looked at the place where the old man was sitting with a face full of envy. The lower 3 realms of cultivation was only the most basic stage. With his cultivation at the 3rd realm, he could only pray for sunshine and rain in a small area, take things in the air, and draw some fulu. For example, walking on water and sitting on fire, controlling the wind and spitting out flames, qi restriction, and other techniques could only be learned after reaching the transcendent realm. In order to shorten the time needed to advance to the transcendent realm, Li Mu had to perform more meritorious deeds for the yamen in order to obtain enough spiritual jades. Li Mu walked into the front hall and only saw Constable Zhao. He looked around and asked, "Where's Lord Shen?" Constable Zhao said, "He's drunk and resting in the back hall." "Why are you looking for Lord Shen?" Li Mu said, "Nothing much. I just wanted to ask if the yamen has any errands for the next few days." Constable Zhao lamented, "Everyone else avoids their jobs like the plague, but you're the only one who can't wait. No wonder it took me 20 years to get to the position of constable, but you only took 2 months. You can't compare people, you can't compare," Li Mu said. "My luck played a large part. Don't worry, I won't be jealous of you." Constable Zhao patted him on the shoulder and said, "However, I have to remind you that even though you've been in the limelight this time and have become famous throughout the great Zhou dynasty, you can't be careless. There are some things that you have to know." Li Mu sat opposite Constable Zhao and asked, "What things?" Constable Zhao asked, "Do you know why the imperial court spread the news about Yang County?" Li Mu nodded and said, "It's because His Majesty wants to intimidate the local officials and unite the people." Constable Zhao shook his head and said, "It's not as simple as you think. This seems to be a matter of our North County, but it actually involves the struggle between the old and new parties." Li Mu had always been in the North County and didn't know much about the imperial court. Hearing this, he asked, "What are the old and new parties?" Constable Zhao explained, "The new party is the party that supports Her Majesty the Empress. The old party is the nobles led by the Xiao clan. They have always wanted Her Majesty to remain in the Xiao clan. In the past few years, the two parties have been fighting openly and covertly, causing the entire imperial court to be in turmoil. It also has a great impact on the local areas. The people have suffered greatly." Li Mu asked, "What does this have to do with me?" "Of course it has to do with you." Constable Zhao glanced at him and continued, "His Majesty used this matter to unite the people of the North County and intimidate the local officials of the 36 counties. Naturally, the old party doesn't want to see this happen. The first imperial envoy to the North County was sent by the old party. They don't care about the people of the North County at all. The more the people of the imperial court are divided, the more advantageous it is for them. When His Majesty completely loses the people's hearts, it will be time for them to force His Majesty to return the throne." Li Mu frowned and said, "For the sake of the struggle between the parties, they don't even care about the lives of the people." Constable Zhao said, "A woman ascending the throne is not a legitimate position. Although the old party doesn't dare to openly oppose His Majesty, they have done many things in secret. Their power is intertwined and deeply rooted in the imperial court. Even His Majesty can't do anything about it." He looked at Li Mu again and said, "To a large extent, the incident in Yang County has won the hearts of the people for His Majesty. This is something the old party doesn't want to see. Although they won't do anything to you openly, you still have to be careful." Li Mu pursed his lips and said, "I'm just a constable. I don't want to get involved in these things. In life, there are too many things that are beyond one's control." Constable Zhao shook his head and said, "Whether you are willing or not, after this incident, in their eyes, you will be Her Majesty's man." Chapter 178. Li Mu did not belong to the new party or the old party, nor did he belong to the Empress. If one had to say who he was, he should be one of Lu Hanyan's men. He was only used by the new party to achieve some political goals for the Empress. The conflict between the new party and the old party was about the ownership of the imperial power. The conflict was mainly in the Middle County, which was thousands of miles away from the North County. No matter how far the old party's influence stretched, it could not reach here. He was not worried about being involved in the conflict thousands of miles away. He was just curious. The Great Zhou was not the Great Tang, nor was it the Zhou dynasty. The Xiao royal family had been passed down for so long. How could the imperial power suddenly be controlled by a woman with a different surname? This matter was not described in detail in the history books. It was only mentioned in a few sentences. As for the gossip about the Empress, no one knew if it was deliberately spread by the old party, but the people had always been talking about it. For example, when she was still the crown princess, she was not liked by the crown prince. When the previous emperor died and the crown prince ascended to the throne, she was still a virgin. Another example was that not long after the crown prince ascended to the throne, she used despicable means to murder the crown prince. She deceived everyone and obtained the approval of the ancestral temple. She obtained the emperor's qi and transcended. She intimidated the Xiao royal family and seized the imperial power from them. In recent years, there had been a lot of criticism about a woman becoming the empress. However, there was one fact that could not be denied. That was, the ruler of the most powerful country in the ancestral land was a young woman. The empress of the Great Zhou ascended to the throne at the age of 25. It had only been 3 years since then. She was only 9 years older than Li Mu, but she was already the most powerful woman on the continent. At the same time, she was also a powerhouse in the 7th realm. Li Mu was still young after all. If the slovenly Taoist priest thought of this, he would probably have a mental breakdown. He no longer paid attention to these things that had nothing to do with him. He said to Constable Zhao, "Lord Shen is awake. Please help me ask for leave. I want to go back to Yangqiu County." Constable Zhao waved his hand and said, "I will tell Lord Shen. Be careful." In the past 2 days, 3 just hen cultivators died mysteriously. It's not very peaceful outside. The Yunyan Pavilion had 4 shops in Yangqiu County, but only 2 in the county capital. Now that the shops in the prefectural capital were on the right track, Lu Hanyan wanted to go back to the county to take a look. Li Mu offered to accompany her. While Lu Hanyan was inspecting the store, he could go to Clearwater Bay to see Su He. The 3 humans and 1 demon returned to Yangqiu County City from the county city. The flying boat that Li Mu had exchanged from the Earth Pavilion last time was finally of use. Although Lu Hanyan and Wan Wan had been cultivating for a few months, this was their first time in the sky. They hugged Li Mu's arm tightly before they dared to look down from above. The speed of the flying boat was extremely fast. The journey that would have taken more than half a day only took 4 hours this time. Lu Hanyan went to the store to check the accounts while Wan Wan and Xiao Bai accompanied her. Li Mu left the county town and headed towards Clearwater Bay. Just as he walked into Su He's illusion, Li Mu sensed 2 streams of Yin Qi. 2 female ghosts, one big and one small, were sitting cross-legged outside the wooden house, cultivating. Compared to the last time Li Mu saw them, their auras had improved significantly. They were probably not far from the 3rd realm. "Young master, you're here." Sensing Li Mu's aura, the older female ghost immediately woke up from her cultivation. When she saw Li Mu, she stood up abruptly and exclaimed in surprise. Li Mu still did not sense Su He's aura. He asked, "She hasn't come out of seclusion yet?" The female ghost said, "Sister Su came out once and taught us some cultivation methods. Then she went into seclusion again. She said that she would need a few more months to come out of seclusion completely." Su He's seclusion this time was longer than expected. The 1,000 illusions venerable master's cultivation was too high. Even a fragment of his soul contained immense soul power. Su He was already close to the peak of the 4th realm. When she came out of seclusion after refining the 1,000 illusions venerable master's soul power, she would probably be a 5th realm ghost. The first ghost general under Chu Jiang of Gojoseon and Miss Xiao Yu, who had enjoyed the benefits of creating new Dao techniques, were in this realm. Li Mu was a little disappointed that he did not see Su He. However, there was nothing he could do. He walked to the edge of the lake and stared at the dark green water in a daze. He did not forget that there was still a huge threat to Su He at the bottom of the lake. Once the female corpse came out of the lake, she would definitely devour Su He and complete herself. Similarly, if Su He could refine the intelligence born from the corpse and obtain a body to live in, her strength would also double. The current Li Mu was much stronger than before. He dove into the water again. The altar at the bottom of the lake appeared before his eyes. After digesting the 1,000 illusions venerable master's memories, the mysterious runes on the altar no longer held any secrets. This was an exquisite corpse-nurturing array formation. It used this water vein to seal the corpse in the altar here. The altar had obviously been used once before. After Su He died, his body accidentally fell into it, and the spell formation was activated once more. Over the past 20 years, the corpses in the spell formation had already gained sentience, and possessed the Tao of the 4th stage. As if sensing Li Mu's gaze, the female corpse lying quietly on the altar opened her eyes again. At the same time, Li Mu felt a strong suction force erupting from the altar. It seemed to want to suck his soul over. However, the current Li Mu was no longer the rookie who had only condensed 1 spirit and 2 spirits. His 6 spirits had been completely refined, and his 3 spirits had become primordial spirits. This suction force couldn't shake them in the slightest. The female corpse opened her eyes and met Li Mu's gaze. Both man and corpse were very calm. Li Mu couldn't enter. She couldn't come out either. Unless this water vein was cut off and the Bay of Clearwater dried up, the altar wouldn't have any spiritual power to pour in. That would be the time for the female corpse to come out. With the experience of 1,000 illusions, Venerable Master, Li Mu could easily see that the upper limit of a corpse trapped in this array formation was the 5th realm. When she was nourished by spiritual power and evolved into the 5th realm flying stiff, she would be able to come out of the altar without the Bay of Clearwater drying up. Based on the aura on the female corpse and the speed at which the altar gathered qi, it would take her about 10 years to reach the 5th realm. And within half a year, Suhi would be able to reach the 5th realm. At that time, the altar's array formation would no longer be able to trap her, and she would be able to leave at any time. The female corpse underwater was no longer a threat to Suhi. After coming out of the water, Li Mu dried his clothes with spiritual power. After giving the 2 female ghosts some pointers on their cultivation, he left the Bay of Clearwater. Although the 1,000 illusions Venerable Master was Li Mu's disaster, he was also his good fortune. He almost caused Li Mu to lose his second life. But it was also because of him that Li Mu had the experience and knowledge of Dongxian cultivators when he was only in the soul refining realm. In his mind, other than the evil arts, he also knew a lot about Buddhism, Taoism, demons, and ghosts. It was easy for him to guide the 2 resentful spirits in their cultivation. After leaving the Bay of Clearwater, Li Mu didn't return to the county. Instead, he went to the Jinshan temple. He sent a little monk to pass the message. After a while, Xuandu walked out and said happily, "Benefactor Li has finally thought it through and wants to convert to Buddhism." Li Mu said, "I'm here to see Miss Xiaoyu." Xuandu said regretfully, "Miss Xiaoyu is doing well in the temple. It's just that the killing intent in her body is too strong. She still needs some time to dispel it." He brought Li Mu to the front of the temple. Li Mu saw a young girl wearing monk robes. She was kneeling on a praying mat with many acolytes. She was chanting Buddhist scriptures. Every time she chanted, the killing intent in her body would decrease by a bit. As she was chanting, she suddenly felt something. She slowly turned her head and saw Li Mu. She quickly ran over and said happily, "Benefactor." Li Mu smiled and asked, "Are you used to this place?" The young girl nodded and said, "I'm used to it. The masters and the little masters are very good to me." Seeing Xiao Yu's current appearance, Li Mu was relieved. Before he came, he was worried that she would not be able to let go of her hatred and that it would affect her temperament. Now it seemed that letting Xuandu bring her to the Jinshan temple was a very correct decision. Before she died, she used her own resentment to perform that Taoist technique for the first time. She benefited greatly from it and directly advanced from the Yin spirit to the 5th level. If she lost her temperament and fell into the devil's path, Li Mu would also have to bear a large part of the sin. After seeing Xiao Yu, Li Mu taught her some ghostly techniques. Although her cultivation was high, she did not know how to use it and did not know how to cultivate. In the future, her mana would not increase. Knowing the path of ghostly cultivation, she could continue to cultivate. Xuandu looked at Li Mu and asked, "The imperial court did not make things difficult for Benefactor Li regarding Miss Xiao Yu's matter, right?" "No." Li Mu shook his head and said, "His Majesty intends to use this matter to intimidate the local officials and make them restrain the power in their hands. They will not dare to bend the law for personal gain and disregard human lives." Xuandu put his palms together and said with relief, "Amitabha. It seems that this matter has finally woken up some people in the imperial court." Li Mu thought of something and asked, "Is Master Puji not in the temple?" Xuandu smiled and said, "Uncle Master went to the ancestral court of the Xian clan to comprehend the state of Mahasvara. I don't know when he will be back." "Benefactor Li, are you looking for Uncle Master?" Mahasvara was the 6th level of Buddhism, corresponding to the Dongxian of Taoism. There were not many such experts in the ancestral court of the Xian clan. No wonder the Jinshan temple had such a high status in the Xian clan. Li Mu said, "There is something I would like to ask Master Puji. Since the abbot is not here, I can only trouble Master Xuandu." Xuandu said, "Benefactor Li, please speak." The White Demon King had helped Li Mu a lot. Just being sucked by the Bai sisters a few times was not enough to repay the favor. Li Mu's Buddhist cultivation was very low and could not send the Buddhist light into the ice coffin. However, Xuandu was at the peak of the 4th level and was only one step away from the 5th level of Dharma. With his help, there might be a chance. After hearing Li Mu's words, Xuandu nodded and said, I have heard of the White Demon King's good name. Since it is about the White Demon King, I will accompany you. Li Mu and Xuandu came to Yang County. They first found the Rat Demon and asked him to pass on the message. An hour later, the White Demon King came over on a cloud. Xuandu put his palms together and said, Greetings, White Demon King. The White Demon King returned the greeting and said, Master Xuandu, I have heard a lot about you. Then he looked at Li Mu and asked, Little brother, what is it? Li Mu said, This time, I came with Master Xuandu for the White Demon King's wife. Master Xuandu's Buddhist teachings are profound. Perhaps he can awaken her soul. The White Demon King was touched but still shook his head and said, In the past 10 years, I have invited Dharma and Mahasvara monks, but even they could not do anything. Li Mu smiled and said, Let's try. The situation can't be worse. The White Demon King thought for a while and nodded. Then I will have to trouble the two of you. Not long after, they came to the ice cave. Xuandu saw the woman in the ice coffin and said in surprise, I did not expect the White Demon King's wife to be a dragon. Chapter 179. Li Mu had seen the 2 horns on the head of the woman in the coffin last time, but he did not think that she was a dragon. This kind of legendary race was too far away from them. It was not an exaggeration to say that the dragon race of the 4 seas was the strongest race in the 10 continents and 3 islands. When dragons were just born, they had the strength of a human of the 4th level. They could ride the clouds and summon the rain. Although they were not as strong as humans because of their small numbers and difficulty in reproduction, they were still the overlords of the sea. The White Demon King's wife was actually a dragon. Xuandu walked to the bottom of the stone platform and looked at the ice coffin. He said, This coffin is quite mysterious. It's like there are 2 worlds inside and outside the coffin. The White Demon King nodded and said, Grandmaster is wise. Inside this coffin is a world created by a supreme cultivator. It is completely isolated from the outside world. If it wasn't for this, my wife's soul would have already dissipated. Xuandu shook his head and said, But this way, the mana of outsiders cannot enter the coffin. He leapt onto the stone platform and said, Let me try. He pressed one hand on the coffin and his palm emitted a golden light. However, it was blocked by the coffin and could not enter the coffin at all. After a while, Xuandu retracted his palm and shook his head lightly. Even though the White Demon King was already mentally prepared, he still could not help but reveal a look of disappointment. Li Mu walked onto the stone platform and said to Xuandu, Master Xuandu, please lend me your mana. This was not the first time the 2 of them worked together like this. Xuandu pressed one hand on Li Mu's shoulder, and a steady stream of mana flowed into Li Mu's body. His peak 4th level mana was hundreds and thousands of times stronger than Li Mu's. Li Mu silently chanted the Heart Sutra and pressed his hand on the ice coffin. The Buddhist light triggered by the Heart Sutra was still blocked by the ice coffin. Li Mu focused and began to shrink the range of the golden light. The golden light on his entire palm gradually shrunk to the size of a thumb. Below the stone platform, the green bull demon's eyes suddenly widened. The golden light, which had been completely excluded from the coffin lid, actually went in a little. Although it wasn't even half an inch, it was still a huge breakthrough. The White Demon King's breathing slowed down as a strong sense of hope appeared in his eyes. Even an eminent monk of the 6th realm, the Freedom Realm, would not be able to penetrate the light of Buddha through the coffin lid. Yet, Li Mu, who was at the 3rd realm, did it. Perhaps he could really create a miracle. Li Mu focused his mind and focused all his magic power on a single point. In the end, he could only make the golden light penetrate an inch into the coffin lid, not even half the distance. His forehead was full of sweat, and his clothes had long been soaked. Finally, at a certain point he reached his limit. His body swayed, and he almost fell. The White Demon King immediately supported him and channeled a strand of magic power into his body. He asked, Little brother, are you all right? I'm fine. Li Mu looked at the ice coffin and said, If I want to penetrate this ice coffin, I'm afraid I'll need the help of at least an eminent monk of the Dharma phase realm. The White Demon King's face was filled with excitement. He said, I'll go to the Heart Sect immediately. No matter what price I have to pay, I have to invite an eminent monk here. Amitba. Xuandu suddenly chanted and said, Demon King and Benefactor Li, please wait for me for a moment. I'll be back soon. With that, He jumped off the platform and walked outside. Li Mu leaned against the cave wall to rest. Suddenly, he felt a strong wave of magic power coming from outside the cave. He and the White Demon King rushed outside the cave and saw Xuandu sitting cross-legged on the empty ground outside the cave. His hand seals kept changing, and a strong power of heaven and earth surrounded him. The White Demon King said in shock, "Master Xuandu is about to break through." As soon as he said that, Xuandu's body suddenly shone with golden light. A wheel of light appeared behind him. The light was so blinding that one could not look directly at it. Not long after, a golden shadow suddenly appeared behind the wheel of light. The shadow was dozens of feet tall. It was a monk sitting cross-legged. One could vaguely see Xuandu's appearance. The White Demon King said in shock, "Dharma phase." The huge golden shadow quickly solidified. Then, it suddenly shrank and entered Xuandu's body. Xuandu opened his eyes. Two blinding golden lights shot out from his eyes and gradually dissipated. He slowly stood up and said to Li Mu, "It's done now." The White Demon King cupped his hands at Xuandu and said, "Congratulations to Master Xuandu for reaching the Dharma phase realm." A moment later, on the ice cave's platform, Xuandu placed his right hand on Li Mu's shoulder again. A Buddhist dharmic power that was many times purer than before surged into Li Mu's body from his palm. The golden light in Li Mu's hand began to slowly spread into the ice coffin. 1 inch. 2 inches. 3 inches. At a certain moment, Li Mu felt the pressure on the ice coffin decrease greatly. The golden light finally broke through the ice coffin and shone on the woman in the coffin. After a moment, the woman's eyelashes trembled as if she was about to open her eyes. But in the end, she did not. Li Mu's body was exhausted. He could only stop temporarily and rest against the ice coffin. Xuandu said, "She doesn't have much soul power left." Although Benefactor Li can stabilize her essence soul and prevent it from dissipating, he still needs a huge amount of soul power to wake her up. The White Demon King looked at the woman in the coffin with a thoughtful expression. "Amitba." Xuandu chanted a Buddhist proclamation and said, "I know that the Demon King is kind to save your wife, but you must not fall into the evil path." The White Demon Monarch sighed and said, "Don't worry, Grandmaster. I have never let down the heavens, the earth, and my heart. Even if I were to sacrifice my soul, I would never do anything against the evil path." The simplest and fastest way to obtain a large amount of soul power was to create a zombie disaster in Zhou County like Venerable Thousand Illusions and secretly harvest the soul power of more than 1,000 people. From the White Demon King's education to Bai Xin and her sister, he was probably not such a demon. But this way, he would not be able to collect so much soul power unless he sacrificed himself in exchange for his wife's life. Unless there was a way for him to collect enough soul power without committing heinous acts. An idea flashed through Li Mu's mind, and he suddenly said, "I have a way to let the Demon King obtain a large amount of soul power." The White Demon King immediately looked at him and asked, "What way?" Li Mu smiled and said, "Chu Jiang of Gojoseon has 12 ghost generals under him. They commit all kinds of evil in the North County. Killing them and taking their souls can not only eliminate evil for the people but also obtain soul power." 12 ghost generals? Xuandu said in surprise. "Why did I hear that Chu Jiang of Gojoseon has 18 ghost generals under him?" Li Mu explained, "Because of some reasons, there are only 12 left." Xuandu shook his head and said, "I'm afraid the soul power of the 12 ghost generals is not enough. What if there's Chu Jiang of Gojoseon?" Li Mu continued, "Chu Jiang of Gojoseon is the biggest threat in the North County. The county government has wanted to get rid of him for a long time. If the Demon King wants to get rid of him, the county government will definitely support him. No matter how strong Chu Jiang of Gojoseon is, can he defeat the Demon King and the county government working together?" Xuandu thought about it and said, "This is a perfect plan. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon is a big threat in the North County. If the Demon King and the county government plan to work together to kill him, I will not sit by and watch." The White Demon King thought for a moment and cupped his fists at Li Mu. He said, "I'll have to ask you to contact the county government." Li Mu nodded and said, "Of course." The county government wanted to kill Chu Jiang of Gojoseon more than the White Demon King. If there was such a good thing, County Magistrate Shen would probably wake up laughing in his dreams. How could he not agree? No matter how strong Chu Jiang of Gojoseon was, he was only at the 5th realm. The White Demon King, Xuandu, and County Magistrate Chen were all at the 5th realm. When the time came, the county governor would definitely take action. This way, Chu Jiang of Gojoseon would not be able to protect himself. How could he care about Li Mu killing his ghost generals? The White Demon King looked at Li Mu and said gratefully, "Brother Li, you have helped me so much. I really don't know how to thank you." Li Mu waved his hand and said, "If the Demon King can help the county government to get rid of Chu Jiang of Gojoseon and return peace to the people of the North County, then you should thank me." The White Demon King was silent for a moment and suddenly said, "I have an idea." Li Mu said, "Please speak, Demon King." The White Demon King looked at Li Mu and then at Xuandu and said, "I would like to become brothers with the two of you. What do you think?" Li Mu was shocked when he heard this. He did not expect the White Demon King to make such a request. He was a Fifth Realm Demon King, one of the strongest in the North County. To be able to sit on the same level as the county governor and become brothers with a mere constable at the Third Realm, it could be considered condescending. Before Li Mu could react, Xuandu laughed and said, "The Demon King is very emotional. I admire you. To be able to be brothers with the Demon King is a great joy in life." The White Demon King also laughed. Finally he looked at Li Mu and asked, "Brother Li, what do you mean?" Li Mu cupped his fists and bowed, saying, "Li Mu greets my two brothers." Although the White Demon King was a demon, he had a benevolent heart and was very emotional. Li Mu admired him. Although Xuandu was sometimes violent and always wanted Li Mu to become a monk, he was upright and plain-spoken. When it was time to be merciful, he would be merciful. When it was time to be violent, he would be violent. Li Mu admired his character very much. More importantly, both of them were Fifth Realm experts. Li Mu had just provoked Chu Jiang of Gojoseon and was now embroiled in the battle of the imperial court. He was just a constable with no strength or background. He could only carefully survive in the cracks. Now it was different. At least in the North County, he had two reliable backers. The next time he saw Bai Xin and her sister, he would be a generation older. Would they dare to be impudent in front of him? Among the two humans and one demon, the White Demon King was the oldest, Xuandu was the second, and Li Mu was the youngest. He could enjoy the protection of his two brothers without any qualms. The White Demon King suddenly looked behind him and said, "Don't hide. Come out." Two figures walked out of the cave with their heads lowered. They were Bai Xin and her sister. Bai Tingxin looked at Li Mu and Xuandu and asked in confusion, "Father, why did you bring him and this monk here? What's here?" "Don't be rude." The White Demon King looked at them and said, "This is your uncle Xuandu and this is your uncle Li Mu. When you see them in the future, be more polite." The two sisters' beautiful eyes suddenly widened. Bai Tingxin looked at Li Mu and said in disbelief, "Uncle?" Li Mu patted her head and said with a smile, "Good niece." Chapter 180. The White Snake and Green Snake sisters found it hard to accept the sudden appearance of an uncle, especially Li Mu's increase in seniority. However, the White Demon King was usually very strict with them, so they didn't dare to show anything in front of their father. Bai Xin looked at the ice coffin on the stone platform and asked doubtfully, "Father, who is she? Why is she here?" The White Demon King looked at the woman in the ice coffin with gentle eyes and said, "She is your mother." "Mother?" The two sisters were shocked at the same time. The White Demon King said, "Since you found this place, I won't hide it from you." Li Mu and Xuandu left the ice cave of their own accord, leaving the space for the family. Xuandu walked out of the cave and suddenly said, "Third Brother's Sutra is very mysterious. I have never seen it before. There are many sutras in the heart, nirvana, suffering, and speech Buddhist sections. If you have the heart to create a sect, there will be a fifth Buddhist sect in the ancestral state." Xuandu's high evaluation of the Heart Sutra exceeded Li Mu's expectations. In the ancestral state, there were 4 Buddhist sects: heart, nirvana, suffering, and speech. The teachings of these 4 sects were different and their cultivation methods were also very different. However, the fundamental difference was that the 4 sects followed different scriptures. The Heart sect followed the Meditative Heart Sutra, the Nirvana sect followed the Nirvana Sutra, while the Ku sect and the Yen sect followed the Abstinence Sutra and the Mahavairakana Sutra, respectively. These 4 scriptures were all top-level scriptures. The ancestors of the 4 sects used them as the foundation to create the 4 Buddhist sections. In Xuandu's eyes, the Heart Sutra was so mysterious that it was enough to create a sect. Li Mu smiled embarrassedly and said, "I don't have the heart to create a sect. I just want to be a constable and do my job well." Xiandu had a look of pity on his face. Although Li Mu's cultivation level was not high, he was able to create such a powerful scripture. If he focused on Buddhism, there was a high chance that he would become a patriarch of a sect. Many years later, there would be a fifth Buddhist sect. Not only that, but he was also able to resonate with the heavens and earth with his words before reaching the age of 20. This was unprecedented in the Taoist sections. Xuandu was meditating not far away, stabilizing the realm he had just broken through. Li Mu had just forcefully sent Jin Guang into the ice coffin, so he was somewhat exhausted. He leaned against a tree to rest. After an unknown period of time, he felt an itch on his face. He opened his eyes and saw Bai Tingxin sweeping a green foxtail on his face. Li Mu's face darkened and he said coldly, "Impudent." Bai Ting's heart skipped a beat. He curled his lips and said, "That's just my father's idea. Don't even think about making me call you uncle." Li Mu looked at the green snake who was in the rebellious stage and said, "It seems that I need to tell Brother Bai to discipline his daughter." Green Snake's expression changed. "How dare you?" Li Mu smiled and asked, "Why don't you take a guess?" Bai Tingxin rolled her eyes and smiled again. She hugged his arm and shook it. "I'm just joking with you, Uncle Li Mu. Don't mind me." Everything had its vanquisher. It seemed that if he wanted to subdue this green snake, he still had to use the White Demon King. Li Mu glanced at her and said, "Go play somewhere else. I want to rest." Bai Tingxin did not leave. Instead, she extended her hand to him. Li Mu asked, "What are you doing?" Bai Tingxin said matter-of-factly, "It's the first time an elder meets a junior. Don't tell me you didn't prepare a gift?" Li Mu shook his head and said, "It's not the first time we met. It's different in the past." Bai Tingxin explained, "I didn't call you uncle before. If you didn't prepare a gift, teach me the spell that uses lightning to strike people." Li Mu refused. "That's a Taoist technique. I only teach it to my own people. I don't teach it to outsiders." Li Mu had taught the confrontation formula to Li Qing, Lu Hanyan, and Wan Wan. He had not even taught it to Xiao Bai yet, let alone this snake. Bai Tingxin was disappointed. "I treat you as an uncle, but you treat me as an outsider?" Li Mu thought about it and took out a piece of spiritual jade. He said, "This spiritual jade is for you. Take it as a gift for our first meeting." Bai Tingxin looked at him and asked, "Uncle, can't you be more sincere?" Li Mu thought that after becoming sworn brothers with the White Demon King, this green snake would not dare to be presumptuous in front of him. He did not expect that not only did she not restrain herself, she became even more aggressive. He thought about it and said, "I don't want to. Let's talk on our own terms. I call you Dad Big Brother, and you call me Li Mu. We'll also address each other as equals." "Of course not," Bai Tingxin said firmly. "Won't that mess up the seniority? I'll call you uncle. It's only right for an uncle to help his niece cultivate. I'm about to condense my Yao core. Uncle Li Mu will definitely help me, right?" Li Mu knew what Bai Tingxin wanted. He was severely exhausted and had just recovered a little. If he helped her once, he would be drained dry again. Li Mu stood up with the help of a tree. He said, "I can't help you. Goodbye." Bai Tingxin pressed on Li Mu's shoulder, and Li Mu sat down again. Bai Tingxin was surprised. She said, "So you don't have any strength?" Li Mu leaned on the tree and said, "I'm exhausted because I saved your mother. If you still have a bit of humanity, let me have a good rest." "But I'm not human to begin with." "Tingxin." The White Demon King's voice came from behind. Bai Tingxin's expression changed. She immediately helped Li Mu up and said with concern, "Oh, Uncle Li, are you okay? Let me help you up." The White Demon King walked forward and said, "Third brother, I'll leave the county office to you." Li Mu smiled. "Don't worry, Brother Bai. The county office has long wanted to get rid of Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. They won't let go of this opportunity." The White Demon King looked at Bai Yin and said, "Yin, you go with Uncle Li to the county capital. If there's any news, you can report back immediately." Bai Tingxin heard and immediately said, "I want to go too." The White Demon King looked at her and said, "Your sister has something important to do. What are you going to do?" Bai Tingxin ran over and held Bai Yinxin's arm. She said, "I'm about to condense my Yao core. If anything happens, I can help sister." the White Demon King thought for a moment and said, "You can come along. But no matter what happens, you have to listen to Sister and Uncle Li. You can't be willful. Otherwise, you can only cultivate in the mountains in the future." Bai Tingxin nodded repeatedly. I know. Lu Hanyan was still in Yangqiu County. Li Mu took the flying boat and separated from Xuandu outside the city. Only the Bai sisters were left with him. Then, he realized a problem. Although they had followed him this time because they had something serious to do, how was he going to explain to Lu Hanyan that he had only gone out for a stroll and there were 2 snakes by his side? Thinking about it carefully, the trust between him and Lu Hanyan had reached a point where there was no need to say anything more. When Li Qing was mentioned, she would still be jealous. However, no matter how jealous she would not be jealous of her niece. After figuring this out, Li Mu walked towards the Yunyan pavilion with ease. Wan Wan and Xiao Bai sat in the tea house. The table in front of them was filled with all kinds of pastries. When she looked up and saw Li Mu enter, she immediately stood up and waved her hand. "Young master." Her gaze swept past the Bai sisters behind Li Mu. When she saw Bai Tingxin, her face turned pale. She immediately hid behind Xiao Bai and said in shock, "There's a snake." "A huge snake." Bai Tingxin was shocked. How did she see through me? As the time of cultivation grew longer and her transcendence energy became more profound, Wan Wan's spirit eyes could finally unleash the effects of this kind of physique. Bai Yinxin had already condensed her Yao core. Her demonic aura was not obvious, so she could not see through her. Bai Tingxin was only at the 3rd realm, so she could see through her at a glance. Li Mu walked to Wan Wan's side and comforted her. "Don't be afraid. She's one of us." After he finished speaking, he asked Xiao Bai, "Where's Sister Hanyan?" Xiao Bai retracted her gaze from the Bai sisters and said, "Sister Hanyan is upstairs." Lu Hanyan happened to come down from upstairs. She had seen Bai Tingxin once, but not Bai Yinxin. She asked doubtfully, "They?" Li Mu looked at Lu Hanyan and said to the Bai sisters, "This is your aunt from now on." Bai Yinxin opened her mouth but did not call out in the end. Bai Tingxin, on the other hand, smiled and said, "Hello, aunt." Lu Hanyan looked confused. She could only say to Li Mu, "Come up with me." After a while, Wan Wan and Xiao Bai sat on the 1st floor and ate pastries. Bai Tingxin picked up a piece of mung bean cake and put it into her mouth. She glanced at Xiao Bai from the corner of her eyes and whispered in Bai Yinxin's ear, "That girl is so beautiful. Even I like her." Bai Yinxin looked to the side and said, "Of course a fox demon is beautiful." "Ah, she's a demon too." Bai Tingxin looked surprised and said, "But she doesn't have any demonic aura." Bai Yinxin said, "It's your fault for not cultivating properly in the past. If you've condensed your Yao core now, why can't you tell?" Bai Tingxin thought for a while and said with a sudden realization, "So he already has a beautiful fox demon at home. No wonder we couldn't charm him in the past." Bai Yinxin looked at her and reminded, "Don't blame me for not reminding you. If you're still as impudent as before, Father won't let you out." Okay, I know." Bai Tingxin sighed helplessly and said, "He's not much older than us. Why should I call him uncle? I'm really unwilling." In the room on the 2nd floor, Lu Hanyan looked at Li Mu and asked, "Where did your 2 nieces come from?" Therefore, Li Mu told her about the White Demon King and Xuandu becoming sworn brothers. He asked again, "Heaven and earth can bear witness to my feelings for you. Don't tell me you're jealous of your nieces?" Lu Hanyan rolled her eyes at him and asked, "Do you think I'm a jealous woman?" In fact, she was really jealous just now. After all, these 2 women were younger and prettier than the other. Although their figures were not as voluptuous as hers, their slender waists were envied by all women. Jealousy was jealousy, but she was unwilling to admit it when Li Mu said it out loud. Thinking about the White Demon King, she was touched and said, "The White Demon King is really devoted to his wife. You should learn from him." Li Mu said, "I'm also devoted to you." Lu Hanyan snorted and said, "What about Constable Li? You're still carrying the sword she gave you. Are you still thinking about her?" Chapter 181. Li Mu was speechless when Bai Yijian was implicated for no reason. Although Lu Hanyan would always ask some strange questions, she was generally reasonable and would not harp on a question. Li Si once said that there might be women who did not eat, but there were definitely no women who did not get jealous. Their jealousy meant that they cared. It was not necessarily a bad thing to be jealous occasionally. They stayed in Yangqiu County for a night. At noon the next day, Li Mu brought them back to the county town. After sending them home, Li Mu immediately went to the yamen. He still had an important task to take care of. Whether or not the county yamen could work with the White Demon King to eliminate Chu Jiang of Gojoseon depended on the attitude of the higher-ups. Arrestor Zhao poked his head out of the duty room and said, "Li Mu is back." Li Mu walked forward and asked, "Is Lord Shin here?" Arrestor Zhao thought for a while and said, "If it is not something important, it is best not to look for Lord Shin." Li Mu was surprised and asked, "Why?" Arrestor Zhao sighed and said, "Today is the death anniversary of Lord Shin's parents, wife, and son. 4 years ago today, Chu Jiang of Gojoseon killed Lord Shin's entire family. Every year on this day, Lord Shen would lock himself in his room and not see anyone." Li Mu thought for a while and said, "If that is the case, then it is even more necessary for me to see him." He came to a room at the back of the yamen and knocked on the door. After a long time, a voice came from the room. "I am on leave today. If there is nothing important, do not disturb me." Li Mu stood at the door and said, "If it is not convenient for you today, Li Mu will come again tomorrow. However, this may be the best chance to eliminate Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. If we delay for too long, I do not know if there will be any changes." Crash. As soon as Li Mu finished speaking, he was about to turn around and leave when he heard the sound of tables and chairs being overturned and porcelain breaking. The door was suddenly opened. Commandant Shen grabbed his shoulder and said, "Come in and talk." The room was extremely messy and reeked of alcohol. Li Mu found a chair and sat down. He said, "The White Demon King has already agreed to help the county yamen eliminate Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. Master Xuandu, who has just advanced to the 5th realm, has also agreed to help." "Yes." Li Mu nodded and said, "But the White Demon King has a condition." Commandant Shen asked, "What conditions?" Li Mu said, "He wants the soul energy of Chu Jiang of Gojoseon and his ghost generals." Commandant Shen waved his hand and said, "I can agree to this on behalf of the county yamen." The county yamen had wanted to eliminate Chu Jiang of Gojoseon for a long time. However, they could not find where Chu Jiang of Gojoseon was hiding. Among the 18 ghost generals, only the first ghost general had seen Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. He was also the only one who could directly come into contact with Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. Secondly, it was utterly impossible to do anything to King Chu Jiang by relying solely on the strength of the county. However, if the county yamen and the White Demon King worked together, Xuandu's power could eliminate Chu Jiang of Gojoseon without any suspense. The arrival of Bai Xin and her sister represented the White Demon King's sincerity. After learning of the White Demon King's intention to cooperate from Li Mu, Commandant Shen did not delay and immediately went to discuss with the county governor and the county minister. Since Li Mu killed the 4 ghost generals of Chu Jiang of Gojoseon, incidents occurred frequently in the 13 counties of the North County. However, the incidents did not involve ordinary people, but cultivators. In just a few days, several Just Hen cultivators had mysteriously disappeared. An hour later, Commandant Shen returned to the county yamen and said to Li Mu, "As long as the White Demon King agrees to help, he can take all the soul energy of Chu Jiang of Gojoseon and his ghost generals." The county yamen and the White Demon King had the same goal in dealing with Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. The White Demon King wanted Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's soul energy. The county yamen wanted the peace of the North County. They both wanted Chu Jiang of Gojoseon to die. Commandant Shen continued, "You'll be in charge of contacting the White Demon King. We'll contact the spies we planted in Chu Jiang of Gojoseon as soon as possible and find a way to find his hiding place." Li Mu nodded and said, "Leave it to me. You have contributed greatly to this matter." Commandant Shen glanced at Bai Xin and her sister in the duty room and said to Li Mu, "Well done." There's no need to explain." Commandant Shen smiled and said, "This is your ability. Others can't be envious of you. If you can really get rid of Chu Jiang of Gojoseon, you'll have made a great contribution. The Imperial Court won't be stingy with your reward." Commandant Shen still had to find a way to contact the spies planted in Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. He left after giving Li Mu a few instructions. In this matter, Li Mu was the link between the county yamen and the White Demon King. If they really wanted to solve the problem of Chu Jiang of Gojoseon, they still had to rely on these experts. Li Mu walked into the room. Bai Xin immediately asked, "Uncle, where will my sister and I stay?" Li Mu took out an ingot of silver and was about to speak when Bai Xin said, "You don't want us to stay in an inn, do you? It's dirty and messy, And the food isn't good. Do you have the heart to let your poor nieces stay in such a place? Li Mu thought about it and said, I can help you find a better inn. Bai Tingxin shook her head and said, if my father knew that you treated us like this, he would be very sad. To be honest, the White Demon King was really sincere to Li Mu. Thinking about it carefully, even if a distant relative came, according to etiquette, it wouldn't be good to arrange for them to stay in an inn. If the White Demon King knew, even if he didn't say it out loud, he would inevitably have a grudge in his heart. Li Mu said helplessly, then come home with me first. Lu Hanyan didn't have any objections to Bai Yinxin and her sister staying at home for a few days. As the hostess, she was very enthusiastic and personally cooked a table of dishes. Bai Tingxin, who had never tasted any delicacies in the world, bit her tongue. Bai Yinxin's performance was completely different from when Li Mu first met her. When she first met Li Mu, her performance was not much better than Bai Tingxin's. However, after condensing the demon core and stepping into the fourth realm, her temperament was much more mature than before. Lu Hanyan prepared 2 rooms for them, and the 2 sisters only wanted one. Late at night, Bai Tingxin stood at the door and saw Lu Hanyan enter Li Mu's room and close the door. She didn't come out even after the lights were turned off. She walked back to the room and shook her head. It's over, sister. Now you have no chance at all. Bai Yinxin glanced at her indifferently and asked, are you itching for a beating again? Bai Tingxin said with melancholy, sigh, I'm just thinking for you. You've never seen a man before, and now that you've finally met one, you think he's the best in the world. But there are many men in the world. There must be better ones in the future. You can't give up an entire forest for a tree. Bai Yinxin glanced at her and asked, where did you learn this from? Bai Tingxin took off her shoes and rolled onto the bed. She said, I figured it out myself. When I condense the demon core, we'll go out and explore Zhonghu. Maybe we'll meet our Su Xian. She rolled on the bed alone and suddenly got up. She asked, sister, you don't really like him, do you? Bai Yinxin shook her head and said, I don't know. Bai Tingxin said with certainty, you don't know but you like him. After all, he's the first human you met. She hugged Bai Yinxin's arm and leaned her head on her shoulder. She said, you just haven't seen enough men. In a few months, I'll take you to the outside of North County. When you see more men, you'll know that Li Mu is just as oh. During the few days that Bai Yinxin and her sister were temporarily staying at home, Wan Wan and Little White took them out to shop every day and used their own private savings to buy them a bunch of gifts. The 3 demons formed a deep sisterly friendship. Li Mu had just arrived at the county office when Constable Zhao informed him. The county commandant said to find him when you come to the office. He walked into the front hall. County Commandant Shen waved his sleeves and closed the door. Then he said, the county office has contacted the spy. Li Mu looked at County Commandant Shen and asked, can the spy be trusted? County Commandant Shen nodded and said, he was planted by the county office. We have a way to check if he's lying. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon has been dormant in North County for 5 years. There's indeed a conspiracy. Li Mu raised his eyebrows and asked, what conspiracy? County Commandant Shen said in a deep voice, he nurtured the 18 ghost generals to form a formation. This formation is called the 18-Een Prison Formation. It's an extremely vicious formation of the demon sect. He wants to use this formation to refine the people of a county and use it to break through to the 6th realm. Li Mu had guessed this since a long time ago. He possessed the memories of Daoist Thousand Illusion, so he wasn't unfamiliar with the 18 Nether Prison Grand Formation. King Chu Jiang had spent so much time and gone to great lengths to nurture 18 Soul Realm Ghost Generals, so his intentions couldn't be any more obvious. He continued to ask, which county did Chu Jiang of Gojoseon choose? County Commandant Shen said, Yangqiu County. Chapter 182. Yangqiu County was plagued with disasters. First there was the Thousand Illusions Venerable, and now there was Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. Both of them had targeted Yangqiu County. If Li Mu remembered correctly, there was still some time before Zhang County magistrates could leave his post. He was unsure if he was lucky or unlucky to encounter such a situation before leaving his post. The great formation of the 18 Hells was not to be underestimated. A formation that required Chu Jiang of Gojoseon to spend 5 years to prepare must be extraordinarily powerful. The great formation of the 18 Hells, formed by 18 level 4 evil spirits, was able to draw upon the power of heaven and earth. Even a powerful cultivator from Dongxian would be trapped within. Once the formation was completed, even if a few level 5 cultivators worked together, they would not be able to break it from the outside. Only by stopping the formation from its source and preventing Chu Jiang of Gojoseon from successfully setting up the formation could they destroy his plan. Li Mu continued to ask, when does Chu Jiang of Gojoseon plan to make his move? 7 days later? County Magistrate Shen was surprised. How do you know? Li Mu explained, 7 days later, it just so happens to be the day of the Yin month. King Chu Jiang will definitely choose that day's Yin hour to make his move. The power of the 18 Yin prison formation is at its greatest at that time. County Magistrate Shen was surprised. Our spy only told us the time and location, but not the reason. Do you know a lot about the great formation of the 18 hells? Li Mu nodded and said, I have read about it in an unorthodox Taoist book. This formation is extremely powerful. Once Chu Jiang of Gojoseon succeeds in setting it up, all the people in the county will be sacrificed to him. Don't worry. Since we already know about it, we will not let Chu Jiang of Gojoseon succeed. County Magistrate Shan clenched his fists. His expression was fierce as he gritted his teeth and said, This time, I will kill him with my own hands. After returning from the county yamen, Li Mu informed by Yin Xin and her sister to quickly return to the mountain and inform the White Demon King of this matter. The county government could not openly make contact with the White Demon King. This would arouse the vigilance of the Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. The alliance between the two factions had to be carried out in secret. In addition, Li Mu himself had to make a trip back to Yangqiu County. Not only did he have to inform Xuandu, but he also had to inform Zhang County magistrates so that they could cooperate with the county government and make preparations. The county lieutenant and the county deputy prime minister couldn't do it personally. If they left the county town, they would definitely attract attention. Li Mu was just a small constable, so no one would deliberately pay attention to him. Outside the Jinshan temple, Li Mu and Xuandu stood in an open space. Above their heads, dark clouds gathered and flashed with lightning. Suddenly, heavy snow fell from the sky. It was bone-chilling. When the snowflakes fell on his body, Li Mu felt as if his soul was about to be frozen. This was a Taoist technique that came from Li Mu, but he couldn't perform it himself. This Taoist technique didn't require any hand gestures or mantras. It used resentment as a guide to communicate with the heavens and earth. It was different from any Taoist technique that Li Mu knew. Li Mu sighed. Looking at the girl floating in the air, he felt an indescribable bitterness in his heart. If he was the one who performed this Taoist technique for the first time, he would probably be at the 5th realm by now. However, he couldn't possibly have Xiao Yu's resentment. Some things were predestined by the heavens. The girl's figure floated down from the sky, and the strange phenomenon in the sky gradually disappeared. She slowly floated over and said, When the time comes, I will go with you, master. I should be able to help you with something now. Xuandu nodded and said, That's good too. After the resentment dissipated, although Xiao Yu's strength had decreased, she was still at the 5th realm. In this way, the county office could gather a total of 5 5th realm masters. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon couldn't escape even if he had wings. After leaving the Jinshan temple, Li Mu went directly to the county office. When he arrived at a room on duty, Li Mu stopped in his tracks and slowly walked in. In the room on duty, there was a figure sitting in the seat that originally belonged to Li Qing. It was a female cultivator with the cultivation of the soul-condensing realm. She looked up at Li Mu and asked, What's the matter? This time, Li Mu didn't wear his official uniform. He looked at the female cultivator and said with a smile, I'm looking for Zhang County magistrates. The female cultivator stood up and said, Lord Zhang is busy with official business. If you have any grievances to complain about, you can tell me first. If necessary, I will tell Lord Zhang. Li Mu. Li Mu didn't answer. Suddenly, a familiar voice came from behind him. Li Mu turned around. A middle-aged man smiled and said, It's really you. I heard that you've only been in the county office for 2 months and you've already been promoted to constable. You've really made our county office proud. Li Mu smiled and cupped his fists. Constable Zhou. The female constable looked at Li Mu and said in surprise, Is this the Constable Li who scolded the imperial court? Constable Zhou looked gratified and said, Yes, Constable Li came from our county office. When he was transferred, you hadn't come yet. When he returned to the county office, Everything had changed. Li Mu smiled at Constable Zhou and said, "Is Lord Zhang here? I have something to talk to him about." "Yes," Constable Zhou said hurriedly. "Lord Zhang is in the back office. I'll inform him." A moment later, in the back hall of the county office, Zhang County magistrates made a cup of tea for Li Mu and said with a smile, "It seems that I was right to suggest you go to the county office. You've been promoted to constable so quickly. Come, have some tea." Li Mu sipped the tea. Zhang County magistrates also picked up the teacup and said, "Li Mu, you have a conscience. When you came back to the county to visit your relatives, you didn't forget to visit me. You're not like that ungrateful Zhang Shan. He ran away before I was transferred." Li Mu put down the teacup and said with a smile, "Actually, I came here this time to inform Lord Zhang of something." Zhang County magistrate sipped the tea and said, "Go ahead." Li Mu waited for him to finish drinking the tea and put down the teacup before saying, "Lord Zhang, please sit tight." Zhang County magistrates was stunned at first. Then he immediately stood up and said, "I suddenly remembered that the Imperial Court ordered me to leave office today. I'll pack my things now. The mountain is high and the road is long. We'll meet again if fate wills it," Li Mu said helplessly. "Lord Zhang, don't be in a hurry to pack your things. It's too late to pack now." Zhang County magistrates held the chair and looked at him with bright eyes. He asked, "Could it be that Qianhuan Shangren is still alive?" Li Mu shook his head and said, "How could that be?" Zhang County magistrate sat down and sighed with relief. He said, "Don't scare me. I'm timid and can't stand being scared." Li Mu smiled and said, "Don't worry. It's not a big deal this time." Zhang County magistrates leaned back in his chair and said, "What is it?" Li Mu asked, "Lord Zhang, have you heard of Chu Jiang of Gojoseon?" Zhang County magistrate's heart skipped a beat. He asked, "What happened to Chu Jiang of Gojoseon?" Li Mu said, "Chu Jiang of Gojoseon is going to sacrifice all the people of Yangqiu County in 7 days. The county magistrate asked me to inform you so that you can make preparations." Zhang County magistrate stood up abruptly and said, "The Imperial Court ordered me to go to Zhong County as soon as possible. The carriage is ready. You can tell the next county magistrate about this matter," Li Mu added. "Don't worry, Lord Zhang. At least 5 Fifth Realm cultivators will be involved this time. Yangqiu County will be safe. If this matter is handled properly, Lord Zhang will be rewarded again." Zhang County magistrate sat down again and stroked the short beard on his chin. He said, "I've thought about it. As long as I'm in Yangqiu County, I'm still the local magistrate of Yangqiu County. If Chu Jiang of Gojoseon wants to harm the people of Yangqiu County, he'll have to step over my dead body first." Li Mu cupped his fists and said, "Lord Zhang is righteous. Although the 18 Hell Formation was very powerful and could cover the entire county after it was set up, it would take a long time to prepare before the formation was set up. If Chu Jiang of Gojoseon wanted to unleash the greatest power of this formation, he had to choose a time when the 18 Hell Formation would be set up. If the plan was known in advance, it would be impossible to set up the 18 Hell Formation. From now on, Zhang County magistrates would send people to keep an eye on all the important locations in the county. Even if Chu Jiang of Gojoseon set the time in advance, he would be able to discover it immediately. What happened next had nothing to do with Li Mu. In a battle of that level, cultivators in the condensed spirit and transcendent realm would be injured if they were grazed by it. Li Mu only needed to wait in the county yamen for news. Deep in the mountains in the southeast of Beijun. "Welcome, Your Highness." 18 ghostly figures knelt in 3 rows. In front of them stood a stalwart man. The man had a cold expression. He wore a black robe embroidered with a golden dragon and a jade crown. He exuded a powerful aura. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon looked at the 18 ghostly figures and exhaled. He said slowly, "After 5 years, I've finally waited for this day. We congratulate Your Highness on your success." All the ghosts said loudly. King Chu Jiang swept all the ghosts with his gaze, and then he suddenly looked at one of them and asked, "Soul Reaper Ghost, how long has it been since you became this king's ghost general?" Among the ghosts, a ghost general raised his head and looked at Chu Jiang of Gojoseon with a mocking expression. Chapter 183. Although Zhang County magistrates were as timid as mice, when he was serious, he was very meticulous and trustworthy. 3 days ago, he had received news from Yangqiu County that there were indeed traces of ghostly activity in the county. 2 days ago, the White Demon King had secretly rushed to Yangqiu County, and was heading to the Jinshan Temple to meet up with Xuandu. Last night, County Magistrate Chen and County Magistrate Shen had also secretly left the county office. Even the county governor, who usually did not leave the county capital, had also gone to Yangqiu County. This represented the county office's determination to eliminate Chu Jiang of Gozhouzian. The three officers were not present. Before County Magistrate Shen left, he had temporarily handed the county office over to Li Mu. Today was the day of Chu Jiang of Gozhouzian's operation. The most dangerous place in the North County was Yangqiu County. As long as nothing major happened around the county capital, the 6 constables left behind in the county office could handle it. Today's Yin hour was the Su hour. Half of the Su hour had already passed and it was long past the time to go to the county office. Li Mu had yet to leave the county office. He sat in the duty room, somewhat absent-minded. Although there was no doubt that the 5 Fifth Realm cultivators could take down Chu Jiang of Gozhouzian, Li Mu had a clearer understanding of the Devil Path's heretical cultivation after the incident with monk Qianhuan. They viewed mortals as ants and weeds. The lives of thousands or even tens of thousands of people were just a cold number in their eyes. Not only were these people ruthless in their actions, but they were also sinister and cunning. They were not easy to deal with. Monk Qianhuan was crafty and had 3 burrows. He treated everyone, including cultivators of the same level as Fulu School and Xuanzong, as pawns. He deceived everyone and escaped. Even now, countless people were still in the dark. If Chu Jiang of Gozhouzian did not have a spy in the county office, he would only need an hour to sacrifice all the people in Yangqiu County, leaving no time for the county office to react. Li Mu stood up and walked into the courtyard, looking in a certain direction. This time, the county government was determined to kill Chu Jiang of Gozhouzian. They would definitely wait until the formation of 18 nether prisons was completed, and Chu Jiang of Gozhouzian was unable to free himself and had nowhere to retreat before they struck. It's almost time. I wonder how the situation in Yangqiu County is. Yangqiu County. Zhang County magistrates cupped one hand in the other before his chest and said, "Greetings, Your Excellencies." An old man asked, "What's the situation in the county?" Zhang County magistrates walked to the wall and pointed at a huge map of the county. He said, "Your Excellency, I've identified some suspicious locations over the past few days. Ghosts have been active in these locations for the past 3 days. I didn't want to alert them, so I didn't act on my own accord." "Well done." The old man nodded approvingly and said to County Magistrates Chen, "Your Excellency Chen, please capture the ghost generals hiding in the key locations of the formation with Lord Shen. Try not to disturb the people." County Magistrates cupped one hand in the other before his chest and said, "Your Excellency, Your Excellency." County Magistrates Chen thought for a moment, then raised his head and said, "Your Excellency, after capturing Chu Jiang of Gozhouzian, can you let me kill him personally?" The old man nodded and said, "We'll leave him for you to deal with." County Magistrates Chen knelt on one knee and said in a low voice, "Thank you, Your Excellency." The old man looked at Xiandu, the White Demon King, and the young woman behind Xiandu and said, "I'll have to trouble the 3 of you to come with me and find King Chu Jiang." Not long after, 4 figures suddenly shot up into the sky above the county office. The 4 of them flew in 4 different directions and stood on the city walls of the north, south, east, and west. 4 streams of dermic powers were emitted from their bodies and gathered in the air, enveloping the entire county. Ordinary people could not sense this aura, but the cultivators in the county changed their expressions. They felt as if a huge rock was pressing down on their hearts, making it hard for them to breathe. After a while, the old man on one of the city walls changed his expression and said in a low voice, "How can there be no aura?" The 4 figures gathered together again. The White Demon King shook his head and said, "I didn't sense it." Xuandu shook his head and said, "I didn't sense the aura of the Ghost King either." The girl looked up at the sky. There were snowflakes falling from the sky. She closed her eyes to sense for a moment, then opened them again and said, "There's no aura of the Ghost King here, nor are there any other ghosts. There's only one evil spirit," she pointed in a direction and said, "That evil spirit is very weak. He's about to dissipate." Bang! Somewhere in Yangqiu County, County Magistrates Chen kicked open the door of a courtyard. The courtyard was empty. He could not help but curse. "Damn it, there's nothing here again." The 2 of them had searched several places according to the markings on the map, but they did not find anything. Chu Jiang of Gozhouzian's ghost generals were not there at all. County Magistrates Chen looked serious and said, "Let's go to the next place." The two of them rushed to the nearest courtyard and finally felt the aura of the soul power in a room. "Here it is." County Magistrates Chen's face showed a hint of joy. After breaking the door, he saw an extremely weak shadow. The shadow was obviously a soul and was on the verge of dissipating. There were several blood-red iron nails on his shoulders, wrists, and legs, nailing him to the wall. County Magistrates Chen saw this and his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He said in a hoarse voice, "Ah Quan, why are you here?" The soul raised his head and said weakly, "Sir, I've been discovered. Their target is the county." "Oh no!" County Magistrates Chen's expression changed drastically when he heard this. He said loudly, "We've been lured away by Chu Jiang of Gojoseon." Xuandu and the others walked in quickly from outside. When they heard this, their expressions changed drastically. They thought that they had known about Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's plan in advance and had sent out all the experts from the county government to gather in Yangqiu County. However, they had not expected to be lured away by Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. Yangqiu County was just a pretense that he had deliberately thrown out. His real target had always been the county capital. All the experts from the North County government, including the White Demon King and Xuandu, were gathered in Yangqiu County. The county capital was empty, and no one could stop Chu Jiang of Gojoseon and his ghost generals. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon had long discovered the spy in the county government. However, not only did he not expose him, he even played along and played all of them. He did not even kill the spy. Instead, he used this method to express his contempt for the North County government. Yin Xian and Ting Xian are still in the county capital. The White Demon King's expression was extremely gloomy as he said, "We have to rush back immediately." County Magistrates Chen's face was pale as he said, "It's too late. With our speed, it will take at least an hour to reach the county capital from here. By then, I'm afraid that Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's formation will have been set up." An hour was enough for Chu Jiang of Gojoseon to sacrifice all the people in the county capital. Even if they could rush back, it would be too late. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon had already planned all of this. Not only did he want to sacrifice the people in the county capital, but he also wanted them, the county officials, to experience this incomparable despair. He wanted them to watch the people in the county capital die tragically. The old man made a prompt decision and threw out a flying boat. He said, "Let's return to the county capital immediately. I hope they can delay it." On the flying boat, everyone drove it with all their might. The flying boat turned into a stream of light and quickly streaked across the sky. At this moment, everyone's hearts were extremely heavy. In order to eliminate Chu Jiang of Gojoseon, the county government sent out all the experts. There were only 6 constables in the assembled spirit realm left. How could they possibly delay Chu Jiang of Gojoseon? Even if they arrived, they would not be able to break the formation. They could only watch the tragedy unfold outside the city. When Chu Jiang of Gojoseon sacrificed all the people in the county, even if they joined forces, they would not be a match for the 6th realm ghost. If they did not go to the county capital, all the people in the county would die tragically. If they went to the county capital, not only would they not be able to salvage the situation, but they might also lose their lives. This was a dead end. However, despite knowing this, no one on the flying boat retreated. Xuandu cast a golden light on the soul that was about to dissipate. The extremely weak soul solidified a little. His expression was sorrowful as he said guiltily, "It's all my fault. I harmed the people in the county capital." County Governor Shin shook his head and said, "It's not your fault. It's Chu Jiang of Gojoseon who is too sinister. Yin Xin and Ting Xin are in the county capital. Third brother is there too. I'm worried that they—" The White Demon King's face was no longer elegant. He revealed a ferocious expression as he gritted his teeth and said, "Bastard Chu Jiang. If anything happens to them, I'll kill you." Xuandu put his palms together and muttered, "Amitabha. Buddha, please protect us." County capital. Yunyan Pavilion. Tea house. Zhang Shan looked at Bai Yin Xin and her sister, then looked at Lu Hanyan who was sitting beside them. Extreme shock appeared in his eyes. After the shock, he gradually regained his senses. His expression gradually turned into envy. Bai Yin Xin was not in the mood to drink her tea. She sighed and muttered, "I wonder how father and the others are doing?" Bai Ting Xin picked up a piece of pastry and fed it to her. he said. Don't worry. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon is nothing. With so many powerful experts, nothing will go wrong. As soon as he finished speaking, Bai Yinshin suddenly frowned and looked at the entrance of the tea house. A figure in a black cloak passed by the tea house. Bai Tingshin was puzzled. What's wrong? Bai Yinshin retracted her gaze and said, It's nothing. He's a powerful ghost cultivator. Just don't provoke him. Bai Tingshin was no longer curious. She focused her attention on the table of the tea house again. She shook her head and said, What a lousy story. It's better to tell by Suzhen and Little Qing, county government. It was almost the hour of Su. The sky was already dark. Li Mu paced in the front yard of the county government. He was a little uneasy. It was almost the hour of Yin. In Yangqiu County, the few powerful experts should have already taken action. He did not know how the situation was over there. There should be no suspense in fighting 5 against 1. As long as Chu Jiang of Gojoseon had not advanced, he would not even have a chance to escape. Thinking of this, he was slightly relieved. Arrestor Zhao walked out of the duty room and said, Why aren't you home yet? Don't you need to accompany Lady Lu? Li Mu said, Let's wait a little longer. Arrestor Zhao smiled and said, Don't worry. It's already the hour of Su. You should go back early. Come to the county government tomorrow and you'll hear the good news. Li Mu nodded and said, Then I'll go. As soon as he finished speaking, a red light suddenly flashed in his eyes. The whole yard of the county government was illuminated by the red light for a moment. Li Mu raised his head abruptly and saw 18 blood-red light beams shooting up into the sky from the county government. They gathered in the air and formed a huge blood-red light shield that enveloped the entire county government. Li Mu was stunned for a moment and realized what had happened. His face was extremely ugly. He could not help but curse. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon, F***CKU. Chapter 184. Constable Zhao looked at the light pillar that surrounded the entire county city and exclaimed, What is this? The current situation did not allow Li Mu to think. He made a prompt decision. Gather all the constables, quick. Today's situation was special. There were no strong cultivators guarding the county city. Zhao Qiansun, Wu Zhang, and Wang Wang were all at the yamen. Li Mu had to gather all the fighting forces together as soon as possible. The other 5 constables also noticed the change in the county city immediately and rushed out of the duty room. However, it was too late. 10 streaks of yin qi suddenly came from outside the yamen. A cloud of black fog appeared in the sky above the yamen. The black fog spread rapidly and completely enveloped the yamen. Judging from the aura of the 10 streaks of yin qi, they were only around the 3rd realm. Li Mu was in the formation, but he felt like even his dermic powers were being suppressed. 10 Ghosts God-trapping formation. The moment he sensed the formation, Li Mu saw through Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's intentions. It was obvious that they had their eyes on the county yamen long ago. Once the 18 prison formation was activated, the 18 Spirit Realm Ghost Generals would have to maintain the operation of the formation and could not act rashly. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon could only order the little ghosts below the Spirit Realm to trap everyone in the county yamen. The little ghosts under his command could do whatever they wanted in the county city. They would gather the citizens in the city in the 18 regions and then activate the 18 prison formation. They would sacrifice their souls and blood essence to help Chu Jiang of Gojoseon break through to the next realm. The most important thing now was to break the 10 Ghosts God-trapping formation. Although this formation was only controlled by 10 Third Realm evil spirits, it could trap several 4th Realm cultivators. Under normal circumstances, including Li Mu, the 7 Spirit Realm cultivators would not be able to break this formation. Li Mu's mind raced. He said in a low voice, I will be in the middle. Constable Zhao, you will be in the Qian position. Constable Qian, you will be in the Zhen position. The other 4 constables will be in the Can, Kuan, Li, and Dui positions. Outside the county yamen, the citizens in the city were already in a panic. A huge blood-red light shrouded the entire county. Everyone was shocked, but they did not know what had happened. The county government was shrouded in a black fog. Ghostly figures flew out from every corner and chased after the crowd on the streets. The commoners who were already hiding in their homes were also chased out. The entire county city was like a ghost town. Yunyan Pavilion. Tea house. The customers cowered and hid in the tea house. Several ghostly figures rushed in from outside. Bai Xin swung her sword and dispersed the two soul shadows. With a pale face she said, Chu Jiang of Gojoseon chose the county capital. Father and the others have been tricked. Bai Tingxin's little face turned pale. It's over. It's over. Are we going to be sacrificed too? While they were not paying attention, a soul shadow pounced towards the crowd from the side, but its body strangely stopped in mid-air. Wan's eyes glowed. Xiao Bai's sword landed on the soul shadow, causing it to dissipate into a cloud of black mist. One of the customers hid in the crowd and trembled. He said in a trembling voice, What happened? Why hasn't the government appeared yet? Another customer said in despair, They can't even protect themselves now. I just ran over from the county yamen. The county yamen is now shrouded in a cloud of black mist. I don't know what's happening inside. Li Mu. Lu Hanyan's face turned pale. Without hesitation, she walked out of the shop. Bai Xin grabbed her wrist and asked, Where are you going? Lu Hanyan gritted her teeth and said, I'm going to find him. Bai Xin said in a low voice, It's dangerous outside. You can only wait for him if you stay here. Lu Hanyan stopped in her tracks and did not take another step forward. A silver light flashed above her head, and a jade hairpin flew out. It pierced through the bodies of a few ghosts that wanted to rush in. The ghosts' bodies suddenly collapsed. When the ghosts behind saw this, they did not dare to rush forward anymore. The panicked commoners on the streets realized what was happening and rushed into the shops. The ghosts wanted to chase after them, but as soon as they got close, their bodies would collapse. After a few ghosts died here, the ghosts that passed by all went far away. County Yamen. 10 Third Realm ghosts stood in different directions and floated in the air. Waves of black mist surged out from their bodies and completely enveloped the county yamen. The situation inside could not be seen clearly. A ghost controlled the array and laughed sinisterly. His Highness's move is really brilliant. The North County's government has been fooled by His Highness. When they arrive at Yangqiu County and find out that our target is the county yamen, they will probably be angered to death. A ghost beside him also laughed and said, These idiots really think that His Highness can't tell that the soul-reaping ghost is a spy. All these years, His Highness has released a lot of true information to him, allowing the government to take advantage of him for free. It's all for today's trap. His Highness is wise. Of course. His Highness has always admired Lord Qian Huan. Naturally, he has learned a little of his way of doing things. It's a pity that Lord Qian Huan was killed by Fulu School and Xuanzong. Among the 10 elders, he was the one with the most hope of advancing to transcendence. With Lord Qian Huan's personality, I don't believe that he died just like that. He must be hiding somewhere and planning something bigger. As the ghosts whispered, the leader of the ghosts said sternly, All of you be serious. The 18 ghost generals have to control the array and can't be distracted. There are several powerful characters in this county yamen. If they escape and ruin His Highness's plan, we will all die. One of the ghosts said, Boss, we've been practicing this 10 ghosts god-trapping formation for a few years. Don't you know how powerful it is? Even if a few third realms come, we can still trap them for a few hours, let alone a few spirit conduit realm cultivators. Just as he finished speaking, the black mist above the county yamen suddenly rolled violently. Below the black fog, there was an intense golden light shining out of the fog. The ghosts were shocked. The leader immediately said, Control the array with all your might. The next moment, the golden light broke through the black mist, and a few figures rushed out. Boom! Lightning suddenly descended from the sky and accurately struck the heads of the 10 evil ghosts. The 10 evil ghosts didn't even have time to cry out before their souls were scattered by the lightning. Li Mu instantly killed the 10 evil ghosts. The 6 constables were shocked, but they didn't dare to ask. Li Mu said, The spirit realm ghost generals under Chu Jiang of Gojoseon are all restrained by the array. The rest are vengeful spirits and evil spirits. The 3 of you must hold on until the lords rush back. Constable Zhao asked, What about you? Li Mu said, I will think of a way to delay Chu Jiang of Gojoseon as much as possible. Based on the distance between Yangqiu County and the county capital, even if the county governor realized that he had been deceived, he would need at least an hour to rush back from Yangqiu County. In this hour, Chu Jiang of Gojoseon could sacrifice the people of the county capital several times. The constables looked at each other and didn't say anything. Under such circumstances, any words would be a waste of time. The The 6 of them split into 2 groups and went straight for the little ghosts. Li Mu stood where he was and asked, "Can you feel where Chu Jiang of Gojoseon is?" Madame Chu's trembling voice came from the Bai sword. "I can feel him. He is in the center of the county capital." At the center of the county capital was the location of the state temple. At this moment, the entire state temple was enveloped in a blood-red array. A stalwart man with a crown of pearls and jade floated in the air and laughed. "Do you think these clay figurines can protect this place?" The square in front of the state temple was engraved with extremely mysterious runes. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's figure landed and asked, "How are the preparations?" An evil spirit floated over and said, "Your Highness, the overall plan is going smoothly. However, there are a few human cultivators in the city who are causing us quite a bit of trouble." On a street in the west of the county capital, a cultivator in the assembled god state was fighting with a few evil spirits with all his might. Behind him, there were dozens of frightened people. He didn't know how many evil spirits he had killed. His Fu Lu was completely depleted and he didn't have much magic power left. He used all his strength to force the evil spirits back. Just as he was about to catch his breath, a man wearing a crown suddenly appeared in front of him. The man was stalwart and wore a long black robe. He only glanced at him briefly and the cultivator spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. South Street, County Premier's residence. The young man in white protected Li Si and Chen Miao Miao as he killed a few evil spirits. Then, a stalwart figure descended from the sky. On the North Street, Lin Yu was leading a few constables to fight with more than 10 evil spirits. Suddenly, his body trembled and he fainted on the ground with a few other constables. The evil spirits knelt on the ground and said loudly, "Your Highness!" Chu Jiang of Gojoseon waved his hand and said, "Take them away." A little ghost floated over and pointed ahead. He said, "Your Highness, there's only one shop left. Many of our brothers died there." Chu Jiang of Gojoseon looked in that direction and said, "3 evil spirits. 2 of them have transformed and 1 of them has condensed his core. No wonder." At the entrance of the Yunyan Pavilion, Bai Yinxin's heart sank as she watched more and more evil spirits gather. Although these evil spirits didn't pose much of a threat to them, she didn't forget that there was still a terrifying existence in the city. She looked back at Bai Yinxin and patted her head. She said, "I'm afraid we won't be able to see father alive." Bai Yinxin wiped her tears and cried, "I haven't waited for mother to wake up. I haven't met love yet. Is there anyone who can save us?" Sob sob. What hero saving the damsel in distress? Everything written in the books is a lie. I swear if someone comes to save us now, I'll marry him. Lu Hanyan held Wanwan and Xiaobai's hands and asked, "Are you afraid?" Wanwan's face was pale, but she shook her head firmly and said, "Wanwan is not afraid of anything when I'm with Mississippi." Xiaobai lowered her head and said, "I'm not afraid either. It's just that I can't avenge Grandma." As soon as she finished speaking, a man wearing a crown slowly floated over from afar. Bai Yinxin gripped the sword in her hand and gritted her teeth. She said, "Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. 2 snake demons." A strange expression appeared on Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's face. He said, "What's your relationship with the White Demon King?" Bai Yinxin gritted her teeth and said, "The White Demon King is my father. If you dare to hurt us, my father will not let you go." Chu Jiang of Gojoseon smiled and said, "Very good. This king has no intention of letting him go." He stretched out his hand and their bodies slowly rose into the air. The 2 sisters struggled with all their might, but they still slowly floated toward Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. Boom! A purple thunderbolt fell from the sky and struck straight toward Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's head. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon raised his hand to block it. The thunderbolt entered his hand and disappeared. Although this thunderbolt did not cause any harm to him, it interrupted his action just now. Bai Yinxin and her sister regained their freedom and quickly retreated. Together with Lu Hanyan, they looked at the street in front of them. In the darkness illuminated by the bloodlight, a figure was running wildly from there. Lu Hanyan could feel the strength of Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. Her pretty face showed despair and she shouted, "Run!" Li Mu's figure appeared in front of them in an instant. Seeing that they were fine, he let out a long sigh of relief and said, "Leave this to me. You 2 go in first." Lu Hanyan opened her mouth to say something, but Li Mu shook his head and interrupted her. He said, "Be good." He stretched out his arms and held Lu Hanyan, Wanwan, and Xiaobai. He held Bai Xin and Bai Tingxin in his arms and pushed them into the shop. Then he closed the door of the shop and stuck a Fu Lu on the door to isolate the sound from outside. Chu Jiang of Gojosian looked at the Just Hen cultivator in front of him and said with a smile, "Interesting. You're bold enough, but you didn't consider your strength." Li Mu turned around and looked at Chu Jiang of Gojosian. He smiled and said, "No matter how bold I am, I'm not as bold as you." Chu Jiang of Gojosian's gaze froze and the smile on his face immediately disappeared. He asked, "Who are you?" He stared at Li Mu. He had abandoned the name Zhang Daiden for decades. Other than the Lord Sage, even the other Yama kings of the 10 halls did not know him. Li Mu looked at him calmly and asked, "Zhang Daiden, do you really not recognize me?" As he spoke, his temperament also underwent some subtle changes. Chu Jiang of Gojosian finally felt something. His expression changed drastically and he blurted out, You're Lord Qianhuan." Chapter 185. In this world, apart from the dead Thousand Illusions esteemed being, no one knew him better than Li Mu. Because he had the memories of Thousand Illusions esteemed being, he had a deep interaction with Old Wang in the past 6 months. He understood Old Wang and Thousand Illusions even more. Li Mu was incomparably familiar with his facial expression, speech, actions, punctuation, and stress. He could even imitate them. This was thanks to his experience in the opera house and the self-hypnosis method Su-He taught him. "I'm Thousand Illusions esteemed being. I'm Thousand Illusions esteemed being." Li Mu repeated in his heart, and his aura changed again. His figure was not as tall as Chu Jiang of Gojosian, but when he looked up at Chu Jiang of Gojosian, it was as if he was looking down on him. As he sensed the aura on Li Mu's body that changed rapidly, King Chu Jiang's expression underwent an unprecedented change, and he practically spoke with a trembling voice. "No, impossible. Lord Qianhuan has already been annihilated by the Talisman sect. It's impossible for you to be Lord Qianhuan." Li Mu smiled and said, "Very good. It seems that even the demon sect thinks that I'm dead. That avatar's death was worth it." Chu Jiang of Gojosian's heart was beating wildly. He knew Thousand Illusions esteemed being very well. Among the 10 great elders of the demon sect, Thousand Illusions esteemed being was the best in both strength and scheming. Even his master, the Nether Saint, was inferior to Thousand Illusions esteemed being. When the first rumor spread that Thousand Illusions esteemed being killed by the experts of Buddhism and Taoism, he scoffed at it. Those people didn't understand Thousand Illusions esteemed being at all. He was a cautious person, and the cultivation technique he cultivated was a demonic art that was good at seizing souls. He was no less difficult to deal with than the experts of the upper realm. Sure enough, after half a year, there was news of Thousand Illusions esteemed being again. Not only did he not die, but he also secretly gathered the 7 kinds of souls of Yin, Yang, and 5 elements. He single-handedly planned the corpse tide in Zhou County, and successfully restored his cultivation base to Dongxian. Upon hearing this news, Chu Jiang of Gojosian felt nothing but admiration. Although there was news that Master Qianhuan had been killed by Fu Lu School, Chu Jiang of Gojosian still didn't believe it. With a Thousand Illusions' venerable master's strength and personality, it was hard to believe that he had been completely killed. At this moment, it wasn't that he suspected that this person wasn't Guru Thousand Illusions. It was that he didn't want to believe it, and didn't dare to believe it. At the critical moment when he was about to activate the 18-Yin prison formation, Venerable Qianhuan had appeared in the county city. What was his purpose? Would it affect the plan that he had been planning for 5 years? The name Qianhuan was like a god in the demon sect. Chu Jiang of Gojosian suppressed the fear in his heart and asked, You are really Lord Qianhuan?" Li Mu coldly snorted and asked, "Could it be that you really think that I was completely killed by Fu Lu School?" In reality, if he hadn't met Li Mu, Thousand Illusions esteemed being might really have possessed someone else's body. Li Mu's word seemed arrogant, but it was in line with Thousand Illusions esteemed being's temperament and strength. Chu Jiang of Gojosian didn't dare to doubt him and immediately said, "This little demon doesn't dare." Not to mention that this person's tone and demeanor were extremely similar to the Lord Qianhuan he was familiar with. Only the Nether Hell Saint knew his real name, Zhang Daring. If this person wasn't Thousand Illusions' esteemed being, how could he know his real name? Unless someone had possessed Thousand Illusions' esteemed being. However, if this person could possess Thousand Illusions' esteemed being, he could crush a 5th-level soul as easily as crushing an ant. Why would he waste so much time talking to him? Chu Jiang of Gojoseon thought for a while and finally asked the question in his heart. Why did Lord Thousand Illusions esteemed being save these people? Saving the sisters Lu Hanyan and Bai Yin Xin was his only flaw. In reality, Li Mu couldn't find an excuse at all. Fortunately, with Thousand Illusions' esteemed being's identity and status, he didn't need to find an excuse. Slap. Li Mu slapped Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's face and said indifferently, "Are you qualified to ask about my matters?" Chu Jiang of Gojoseon lowered his head and said fearfully, "Little demon, you've spoken too much." He didn't feel this slap at all, but it was a great humiliation. However, at this moment, Chu Jiang of Gojoseon didn't have a trace of resentment or unwillingness in his heart. There was only fear. In the eyes of the powerful Lord Thousand Illusions, the 10 kings of hell were merely ants. Even if he advanced to the 6th realm, he only barely had the qualifications to talk to him as an equal. He must have his reasons for possessing this person and protecting those people. Perhaps there was a huge conspiracy involved in this, a conspiracy that he didn't have the qualifications to know about. Before this, Lord Thousand Illusions had only used half a year to silently gather the souls of the Yin-Yang 5 Elements body without alerting anyone. He had successfully used the Yin-Yang 5 Elements soul refining formation to return to the profound wonderland. This kind of arrangement, in his opinion, could be said to be amazing. Compared to Lord Thousand Illusions, he spent 5 years to cultivate the 18 ghost generals and used a scheme to trick the North County government. It was not worth mentioning at all. Li Mu slapped Chu Jiang of Gojoseon and said, "These people are an important part of my big plan. The mother of the 2 snakes is from the dragon race. If I can successfully scheme against the dragon race, I have hope of advancing to the transcendence realm." In order to completely fool Chu Jiang of Gojoseon, every word Li Mu said had to be in line with Lord Thousand Illusions' style. Big plan, dragon race, transcendence. Nothing was more suitable for Lord Thousand Illusions. Dragon race, transcendence. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon was shocked. The dragon race was so powerful that even the demon sect didn't dare to provoke them. In order to advance to the transcendence realm, Lord Thousand Illusions even dared to scheme against the dragon race. He took a huge risk and caused such a big commotion just to advance to the 6th realm. On the other hand, Lord Thousand Illusions first used the Golden Mountain to escape and made everyone think that he was dead. Then, he possessed this little constable's body and silently carried out such a grand plan. He probably wouldn't be able to learn this kind of caution in his life. After Li Mu finished speaking, his face darkened, and he said coldly, "You idiot, you've already ruined my plan." Seeing Lord Thousand Illusions get angry, Chu Jiang of Gojoseon felt a chill in his body. The fear in his heart made him kneel on the ground subconsciously. He said in a trembling voice, "This little demon didn't mean it. Please spare my life, Lord Thousand Illusions. Please spare my life, Lord Thousand Illusions." Lord Thousand Illusions' position in his heart was too high. In the demon sect, the fear of a person in a lower position towards a person in a higher position was deeply rooted in everyone's heart. In Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's eyes, although this person only had a spirit condensation cultivation, he still bent his knees under Lord Thousand Illusions' shadow. The vengeful spirits and ferocious spirits in the distance watched this scene with incomparable shock. His Highness Chu Jiang of Gojoseon, who was incomparably powerful, actually knelt down to a human? In the past 5 years, the image that Chu Jiang of Gojoseon had built in their hearts collapsed with a bang. However, in the next moment, all the vengeful spirits and ferocious spirits of all sizes knelt down in unison. Even His Highness had knelt down. How could these little demons not kneel? Li Mu looked coldly at Chu Jiang of Gojoseon and said, "This seat has been planning this plan for a long time. If it weren't for Yu Ming, I would have definitely scattered your soul today." Chu Jiang of Gojoseon kowtowed repeatedly and said, "Thank you, Lord, for your kindness in not killing me." The only way Li Mu could stall Chu Jiang of Gojoseon was to pretend to be Lord Thousand Illusions and fight head-on. Even with Madame Chu, he couldn't possibly defeat Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. He could only try his best to stall for time until the experts from Yangqiu County arrived. "Get up!" Li Mu used the clear heart art to calm his mind. He looked up at the blood-red sky and said indifferently, 18 Hell Formation. You want to use the souls and blood essence of the people in this county to advance to the 6th realm? Chu Jiang of Gojoseon bowed and said, "Lord Thousand Illusions is wise. This little one's aptitude is lacking. I have already stayed in the spectral realm for a long time. I have planned for 5 years just for today's opportunity. Li Mu said coldly. Unfortunately, you chose the wrong place. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon raised his head and asked in shock. Why? Li Mu looked down and said, at the bottom of the North County, there is a peerless seventh realm ferocious spirit suppressed by the vitality of the people in the city. If you sacrifice the people of this city, the ferocious spirit will lose its suppression and break out of the formation. At that time, even if you successfully advance, you will become its nourishment. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon was shocked. There's such a thing? Why didn't I know about it? Li Mu snorted and said, are you saying that I'm lying to you? Chu Jiang of Gojoseon immediately said, this little one definitely doesn't mean that. Li Mu glanced at him and said slowly, of course you don't know, because this involves an ancient secret of my demon sect. Even the 10 great elders might not know everything. Chapter 186. Back then, to prevent that vile soul from wreaking havoc, Emperor Taizu personally sealed that vile soul here and used the vitality of the county's hundreds of thousands of citizens to suppress it. If that vile soul breaks out of the seal, even I would have to avoid it. Li Mu had to pretend to be the venerable Thousand Illusions while racking his brains to come up with a story to fool Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. There was a risk that he would be seen through at any time. After all, the reason why Chu Jiang of Gojoseon did not dare to act rashly was because he was afraid of the venerable Thousand Illusions. Once he found out that Li Mu was just an assembled divinity imposter, he would turn on him immediately. Li Mu could not possibly defeat a peak fifth realm spirit. He could only stall for time as much as possible until a few fifth realm cultivators arrived from Yangqiu County. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's expression was uncertain. He was not doubting the words of the venerable Thousand Illusions, but he had planned for 5 years for today. He wanted to break through to sixth realm and become an elder so that he would no longer be under others. He was unwilling to give up at such a crucial moment. Li Mu could see that Chu Jiang of Gojoseon was unwilling to give up. If he continued to force him, it would probably backfire. He put his hands behind his back and said calmly, I can help you seal that vile soul for an hour, but I have a condition. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon immediately said, please speak, venerable Thousand Illusions. If the venerable Thousand Illusions helped him for no reason, Chu Jiang of Gojoseon would definitely be on high alert. The venerable Thousand Illusions, who was known for being sinister and cunning, would definitely not be so generous. Perhaps he had already included Chu Jiang of Gojoseon in his calculations. His condition made Chu Jiang of Gojoseon feel more at ease. Li Mu looked at Chu Jiang of Gojoseon and said leisurely, I want you to work under me after you break through. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon had a difficult look on his face as he said, but the Lord Sage. Li Mu waved his hand and said, as for Netherworld, this seat will naturally tell him. Do you think that Netherworld will fall out with this seat over a subordinate? Chu Jiang of Gojoseon immediately said, I am willing to serve you. To him, the most important thing was to ascend to the sixth realm. As for whether he would have to submit to others after ascending, that would depend on who he was submitting to. The Nether Hell Sage was merely an ordinary sixth realm cultivator. Naturally, he wasn't willing to work under him. However, the Thousand Illusions Venerable Master would soon ascend to the Transcendence Realm. Being able to work for a Transcendence Realm cultivator was, on the contrary, an opportunity for him. Li Mu slowly walked towards the center of the county city and said, that evil spirit is suppressed under the state temple. This seat will teach you a formation. This formation can temporarily trap this spirit for an hour. After an hour, it will break free. At that time, it will be a headache for the North County government and the Fulu school. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon clasped his fists and said, my lord, you are wise. Li Mu's tone changed. Although this formation is powerful, but, Chu Jiang of Gojoseon hurriedly asked, but what? Li Mu said, but it will require the soul power of your subordinates. You won't be unwilling to part with it, right? Chu Jiang of Gojoseon said without hesitation, I will do it now. He stretched out his palm, and a powerful suction force erupted from his palm. The nearby subordinates were torn apart by this suction force and flew towards Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's palm. Amidst a series of screams, they turned into pure soul power and were absorbed into Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's body. Li Mu looked at Chu Jiang of Gojoseon with gratification and said, ruthless and decisive. Not bad. I admire you. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon clasped his fists and said, thank you for your praise, my lord. I have also been influenced by you. Li Mu nodded and said, those who achieve great things must have a ruthless heart. On the path of cultivation, The weak are prey to the strong. Only the fittest survive. The big fish eat the small fish, and the small fish eat the shrimps. They can only blame themselves for being too weak. The weak have no right to choose. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon no longer had any doubts about the identity of monk Qianhuan. He lowered his head and said, "I will remember." The two figures gradually walked away. In the Yunyan pavilion, Bai Tingxin's voice trembled as she asked softly, "Why is there no sound outside?" At the critical moment when Chu Jiang of Gojoseon arrived, Li Mu suddenly appeared and pushed them into the shop. He closed the door and faced Chu Jiang of Gojoseon alone. He was no match for Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. The girls were prepared to die together. However, after a long time, there was still no sound from outside. Lu Hanyan finally could not help but open the shop door. She found that there was no one outside. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon was gone. Li Mu was gone. Even the resentful spirits and evil spirits outside had all disappeared. There was no one on the street. Above their heads was the blood-red sky. Even the moonlight was dyed red. The entire county was shrouded in a layer of blood-red panic. In front of the royal temple, Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's tall and imposing figure was busy in the open space in front of the royal temple. He followed Li Mu's instructions and drew crisscrossing trenches on the ground as formation patterns. He filled the formation patterns with the soul power of his subordinates. Then, he formed a seal with both hands. The formation patterns suddenly emitted a mysterious power. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon sensed it carefully and confirmed that it was the power of a seal. He looked at Li Mu and asked carefully, "Sir, is this enough?" "Of course not." Li Mu looked at him indifferently and said, "A seventh realm evil spirit is still powerful even if it has been suppressed under the royal temple for hundreds of years. You are too naive if you want to suppress it with a small formation. Even if it can only seal it for an hour, it needs the help of a formation group." Several formations complemented each other and nested together. "Its power is no less than the 18 Hell formation." Chu Jiang of Gojoseon frowned and asked, "Will there not be enough time?" Li Mu said, "An hour is enough. After setting up the seal, you still have an hour to sacrifice these mortals." "Why, is an hour not enough?" Chu Jiang of Gojoseon said, "Of course there is enough time. But after an hour, I'm afraid the strong cultivators from the North County will arrive." Li Mu looked up at the blood-red night sky and snorted. He said, "The 18 Hell formation was created by a talented elder of the demon sect hundreds of years ago. How can a few fifth realm cultivators break it? Moreover, I am here. What can they do?" "Continue to set up the seal according to what I said." Not only was Thousand Illusions Venerable good at refining corpses, but he was also very proficient in formations. Li Mu casually chose a complicated formation and let Chu Jiang of Gojoseon get busy first. Even if the White Demon King and Xuandu arrived, they wouldn't be able to break the 18 Hell formation in a short time. But now, Li Mu had no other choice. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon carved the formation for a while. Suddenly, he looked up at Li Mu and asked, "I wonder how much of your cultivation has recovered. If the strong cultivators from the North County arrive, should I take care of you?" Li Mu knew that things were not good. Although he used the identity of Thousand Illusions Venerable to intimidate Chu Jiang of Gojoseon for a while, as time passed, Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's mind would calm down. The flaws in his body would gradually appear. After all, Li Mu was only in the spirit realm. He could pretend to be Thousand Illusions Venerable, but he couldn't pretend to be a strong cultivator. Faced with Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's test, Li Mu's expression didn't change. Instead, he smiled mockingly and asked, "What? Are you testing me? If my cultivation hasn't reached Dongxian, are you going to use the 18 Hell formation to refine me?" Chu Jiang of Gojoseon immediately lowered his head and said, "I wouldn't dare." He didn't doubt Thousand Illusions Venerable's identity, but after he gradually calmed down, he began to doubt his strength. Thousand Illusions Venerable was very strong. In just half a year, he was able to cultivate a part of his soul to the Dongxian realm. However, that part of his soul had long been killed by the Fulu school and Xuanzong's experts from Dongxian. The one standing in front of him now was just another part of Thousand Illusions Venerable's soul after he possessed someone else's body. In the past 2 months, nothing major had happened in the northern region. It was impossible for him to cultivate this part of his soul to Dongxian in 2 months. If that was the case, wasn't this an opportunity for him? When Thousand Illusions Venerable was at his weakest, he could devour him and obtain his memory inheritance. Then, through the 18 Hell formation, he could ascend to the 6th realm. After returning to the demon sect, he could replace 1,000 Illusions Venerable and become the new 10 Great Elders. After this thought emerged in his mind, he could no longer suppress it. It even made his hands tremble as he inscribed the formation. He didn't immediately make a move. A centipede dies but never falls down. 1,000 Illusions Venerable's strength had been deeply engraved in his heart. Even if it was just a part of his soul that had yet to recover its strength, he didn't dare to underestimate it. He finished inscribing a new formation. According to Li Mu's instructions, after pouring in his soul power, he activated the formation with a trace of his Fa Li. After forming a seal with his hands, Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's eyes flashed a few times. Suddenly, his Fa Li increased by several times. A powerful shockwave spread out from the runes. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's body stood firm. Li Mu's body was pushed back several steps by this impact. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon looked back at Li Mu and asked, "Lord Thousand Illusions, could it be that your Fa Li hasn't recovered to the middle 3 realms?" Li Mu smiled and said, "Why don't you give it a try?" Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's face was uncertain. The shadow that 1,000 Illusions Venerable had left on him was too great. Seeing Li Mu so calm, he didn't dare to act rashly. He bowed and said, "I was careless just now. Lord, please don't blame me." He still planned to set up the sealing formation first. Even if he could devour this seemingly weak 1,000 illusions, he wouldn't be able to completely refine his split soul in a short period of time. If the evil spirit underground was released, his 5 years of planning would be for naught. Half an hour passed quietly. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon activated the last formation. He looked at Li Mu again and asked, "Lord, is it done now?" The experts hadn't arrived yet. Li Mu was already a little anxious. He racked his brains to piece together this formation. The ground was already covered with formation patterns. Even if he wanted to set up another formation, there was no empty space. Forcefully using a formation to delay time would only make Chu Jiang of Gojoseon suspect his true purpose. Li Mu nodded and said, "It's done." Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's face revealed a trace of joy and said, "We can finally start the sacrifice." Li Mu hurriedly said, "Wait." Chu Jiang of Gojoseon asked, "Lord, is there anything else?" No matter what, he couldn't let Chu Jiang of Gojoseon sacrifice the people of the city. Li Mu thought for a moment and said, "Now is not the time. In the last quarter of the Yin hour, the Yin Qi in the world is the strongest. After that, it will change from extreme Yin to extreme Yang. At that time, the power of the 18 Yin prison formation will be at its strongest. 3/4 of an hour? Chu Jiang of Gojoseon shook his head and said, "Things will change if we delay. The power of the formation is already enough. There's no need to wait until then. 3/4 of an hour. Lord Thousand Illusions." Chu Jiang of Gojoseon stared at Li Mu and said, "Since just now, you've been stalling for time. Are you waiting for someone or planning something?" Chapter 187. After being exposed by Chu Jiang of Gojoseon, although Li Mu was already a little flustered in his heart, he still had to maintain his calm on the surface. His face darkened as he asked, "You dare to doubt this king?" "Of course this king does not dare to doubt Lord Qian Huan." Chu Jiang of Gojoseon took a few steps back, keeping a distance from Li Mu, and said, "But Lord Qian Huan's actions, this king cannot help but doubt. For this opportunity, I have been planning for 5 years. 5 years 5 years Does Lord Qian Huan know how I have spent these 5 years? Li Mu said coldly. "Impudent." A touch of madness appeared on Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's face as he gritted his teeth and said, "This king's plan, no one is allowed to destroy it, not even Lord Qian Huan." Chu Jiang of Gojoseon did not doubt his identity as Lord Qian Huan, but he doubted his motives. He racked his brains and delayed Chu Jiang of Gojoseon for an hour, which was already the limit. The obstruction just now had caused Chu Jiang of Gojoseon to become suspicious. This was also something that could not be helped. After all, Li Mu could not watch Chu Jiang of Gojoseon sacrifice the people of the county city. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon had spent a lot of time and effort for today. Not to mention Lord Qian Huan, even if his own father tried to stop him, he would still fight with his life. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon looked at Li Mu and suddenly grinned, asking, "Lord Qian Huan's new body should still be in the lower realm, right?" Li Mu said expressionlessly, "You will know if you try. Lord Qian Huan, You don't have to pretend in front of this king anymore. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon laughed mockingly and said, I can already see that you are only strong on the outside but weak on the inside. Who would have thought that the once high and mighty Lord Qianhuan would end up like this? Li Mu could tell that Chu Jiang of Gojoseon no longer cared whether he was Venerable Master Thousand Illusions or not after he figured out his background. A mere Third Realm Demon Sect Elder was no threat to him. The desire to ascend to the next level overcame his fear of Venerable Master Thousand Illusions. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon looked at him and said, Since you want this king to try, then this king will try. Above his head, the black mist suddenly condensed into 2 spears and shot towards Li Mu. Boom! Boom! Li Mu stood in place as 2 bolts of lightning descended from the sky and landed on the spear. The spear collapsed and turned back into black gas. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon said calmly, This king would like to see what else you can do. He did not get close to Li Mu and only controlled his ghostly aura to attack from a distance. In the sky before Li Mu, lightning snakes danced wildly and neutralized all of Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's attacks. He knew very well that Chu Jiang of Gojoseon was still testing him due to his fear of Venerable Master Thousand Illusions. The dermic powers expended by these attacks were negligible to Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. However, the frequent use of dermic powers caused Li Mu's dermic powers to be on the verge of being overdrawn. Not only that, but Li Mu also realized that the power of these lightning bolts was at least 30% weaker than usual in this 18 hellish hell formation. This was because a large portion of the power of heaven and earth was blocked by the blood-red formation above his head when he used his dermic powers. Heaven and earth are limitless. The universe borrows dermic powers. Dermic powers are born from the heart, and they multiply endlessly. Heavenly Lord Tai, as the law commands. He borrowed Madame Chu's dermic powers and used the demon-slaying protection spell again. The Bai sword turned into thousands of sword shadows and slashed towards Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon opened his arms and countless black mist burst out from his body. These sword shadows entered the black mist and disappeared without a trace. His figure walked out from the black fog and he praised, as expected of Lord Thousand Illusions. Ordinary 4th-level bestial souls would have long been reduced to ashes under this ability. However, are you looking down on me, Lord? Li Mu was also helpless. His true cultivation was only at the beginning of the 3rd level. Even if he gave it his all, he was no match for Chu Jiang of Gojoseon, who was already at the 6th level. Moreover, the dermic powers that he had high hopes for were weakened by the 18 hellish hell formation and could not be used to their full potential. Li Mu was just intending to withdraw the high-grade Strider talisman to deal with King Chu Jiang when he suddenly had a flash of inspiration in his mind, and a thought gushed out into appearance. The reason why he could not use part of his dermic powers was not because he did not have enough dermic powers. It was because his body could not withstand the power of heaven and earth that those dermic powers summoned. With his current dermic powers, he could forcefully use the last few words of the 9 syllables mantra and the Book of Taoism. However, he would die from the backlash of the immense power of heaven and earth. However, in this 18 hellish hell formation, the power of heaven and earth that he summoned from his dermic powers would be weakened by this formation. When it landed on his body, it would not be so unbearable. Li Mu immediately made a hand seal and silently activated the swordsman word. The further back the 9 syllables mantra was, the greater the power of heaven and earth that it summoned. Li Mu originally still needed to cultivate for a few more months before he could withstand the power of heaven and earth. Now that he had recited it, he felt a wave of power of heaven and earth surge into his body, replenishing his almost depleted dermic powers. In the 9 syllables mantra, Lin referred to lightning, Bing referred to weapons, Do referred to battle, and swordsman referred to using the power of heaven and earth to recover dermic powers. When cultivators fought with others, they would expend their dermic powers. Whoever exhausted their dermic powers first would be the first to lose. To be able to fully recover one's dermic powers at any time was equivalent to having the ability to go on indefinitely. However, this technique was useless against Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. No matter how fast his dermic powers recovered, it would not exceed the 3rd level. However, this great formation of the 18 hells was a rare opportunity for Li Mu to comprehend Tao techniques. He quickly changed his hand seals and tried to comprehend the mantras that he had yet to learn. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon saw that Li Mu did not move from his original spot and became even more cautious. He thought of the terror of the 1,000 illusions venerable master and took a few steps back. 2 soul shadows walked out of his body and pounced towards Li Mu. The 2 soul shadows both had the aura of the peak of the 4th level. They each held 2 soul swords in their hands and slashed towards Li Mu's head. Li Mu's body was like a fish in water. He swam between the 2 soul shadows agilely. The 4 soul swords were swung in an airtight manner. However, they could not even touch the corner of Li Mu's clothes. The fighting mantra allowed Li Mu to predict the enemy's movements and react without thinking. He could only rely on his battle instincts. In the next moment, his body suddenly stopped. He allowed one of the soul swords to slash at his chest. That soul sword passed through Li Mu's body. Nothing happened to Li Mu's body. However, the green brick under his feet shattered. The wholeness mantra was a substitution technique. I am all things, and all things are me. It could divert a certain degree of damage. Li Mu retreated. His hand seals changed again. The 2 soul shadows that were charging towards him stopped strangely in mid-air. Then they immediately collapsed. They were killed by a powerful force of the heaven and earth. The formation mantra was a trapping technique. It could trap the enemy and kill them with the power of the heaven and earth. The moment the 2 soul shadows disappeared, Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's body also disappeared. In the next moment, he appeared behind Li Mu. A ghostly hand passed through Li Mu's body and reached out from his chest. Li Mu turned his head and smiled slightly at Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. His body gradually became illusory and finally disappeared. Not far ahead, another Li Mu stood there, completely unharmed. The decueing mantra was a doppelganger technique. It could instantly create an illusory doppelganger. The original body and the doppelganger could shift positions and dodge fatal attacks. With the 18 nether prison formation blocking him, Li Mu was able to withstand the backlash of the heaven and earth power of the 7th word with his spirit condensation cultivation. He could forcefully use the 8th and 9th words, but he would definitely be injured. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon withdrew his hand. He looked at Li Mu from afar. His expression became extremely dark. This was the strongest and most troublesome spirit condensation cultivator he had ever encountered. His ability was no weaker than a cultivator who had just entered the 5th realm. As expected of the 1,000 illusions venerable, he had countless Dao techniques. Even if his cultivation had fallen to the 3rd realm, Chu Jiang of Gojoseon would not be able to do anything to him. Not only that, but the heaven and earth power that these Dao techniques used would pass through the 18 nether prison formation. The 18 ghostly generals had to bear the brunt of this heaven and earth power. In this short period of time, the 18 pillars of light had dimmed. The power of the formation had also been weakened by 10%. If this continued, the power of the formation would continue to weaken. Heaven and earth are boundless. Wind and thunder receive orders. Dragons fight in the wild. 10 sides are destroyed. Heavenly Lord Tai, as the law commands. Li Mu formed another seal with his hands. He was using the 2nd incantation of the Demon Slayer protective art. Wind and thunder suddenly appeared beside Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. The wind was green and seemed to want to blow his soul away. The thunder was purple and struck his body. Even with his strong soul, it did not feel good. However, this was clearly not enough to threaten him. He reached out and formed a steel fork in his hand. He laughed coldly. Lord 1,000 Illusions, if this is all you have, then don't blame me for today. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's body disappeared. At the same time, Li Mu also felt a strong sense of danger. He did not hesitate to take out a Fu Lu and stick it on his body. A steel fork appeared in the void. However, Li Mu had already disappeared. All that was left was an afterimage. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's body appeared. He looked at Li Mu in the distance with a solemn expression. In that moment, his speed had exceeded the limit of an assembled spirit cultivator. That was a speed that only Dongxian cultivators could achieve. Damn it! How many more Dao techniques does he have? He had never met such a troublesome assembled spirit cultivator. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon cursed in his heart. He held the steel fork and quickly chased after him. Li Mu stood on Bai as he utilized the Earth-rank Strider talisman to fly in the sky, whereas King Chu Jiang held the steel pitchfork in his hand as he pursued relentlessly from behind. Every time the distance between him and Li Mu shrunk, Li Mu would utilize the Strider talisman with all his might to pull the distance apart once more. The Spirit Travel Talisman could last for an hour. It was enough for Xuandu and the White Demon King to arrive. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon seemed to have seen through Li Mu's thoughts. He hovered in the air. After a while, he ignored him and landed on the square in front of the state temple. He glanced at Li Mu and prepared to sacrifice the people of the county to increase his cultivation. When he successfully advanced to the 6th stage of the Essence Soul realm, no matter how mysterious the Thousand Illusions' divine ability was, he would definitely die. Li Mu stood in the sky and looked down at Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. It would take 5 minutes to activate the 18-yin prison Great Formation. Just a moment ago, he had already thought of a countermeasure. Li Mu looked up at the blood-colored Great Formation. His heart was filled with a sense of security. He slowly landed on the ground and formed a seal with his hands. After muttering a few words, he broke into a run. In the center of the formation, Chu Jiang of Gojoseon was using all his strength to activate the 18-yin prison Great Formation. Suddenly, he felt a strong sense of fear. He looked up and saw the 18 pillars of light rapidly dimming. The blood-colored Great Formation trembled violently for a moment and collapsed. Before he could activate the formation and sacrifice the people of the county, the Great Formation that he had spent so much effort to set up was gone. Chapter 188. Puff! Li Mu was halfway there when his body suddenly shook and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura weakened significantly. The power of heaven and earth was triggered because of him. In the end, he could not avoid the backlash. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's 18-yin prison formation helped him block most of the power of heaven and earth triggered by chanting the Tao Te Ching. Only a small part of it landed on him. Li Mu was much stronger than when he was possessed by the Thousand Illusions Venerable. Although the backlash of the Tao Te Ching still injured him, it was not enough to make him lose his ability to move. Li Mu looked up. The blood-red curtain had disappeared, and the 18 light pillars were nowhere to be seen. It seemed that even the 18-yin prison formation could not withstand the power of heaven and earth triggered by the first 2 sentences of the Tao Te Ching. After months of constant testing, Li Mu found that only the first 2 sentences of the Tao Te Ching, which had more than 5,000 words, could trigger the power of heaven and earth. With his spirit convergence cultivation, he could not even recite half a sentence under normal circumstances. Just now, to prevent Chu Jiang of Gojoseon from sacrificing the people of the county city, Li Mu recited the first 2 sentences of the Tao Te Ching for the sake of safety. The 18-yin prison formation, which could trap the powerhouses of Dongxian to death, only lasted for a short moment under the powerful power of heaven and earth before it collapsed. The remaining power of the backlash also seriously injured Li Mu. Fortunately, he had made rapid progress in the past 2 months. If it was 2 months ago, he would have died under the backlash. In front of the state temple, Chu Jiang of Gojoseon looked up at the sky with a dazed expression. The blood-red curtain of light was gone. He did not feel the aura of the 18 ghost generals, which meant that they had been wiped out together with the formation under the immense power of heaven and earth. His plan to reach the 6th realm had failed. 5 years of hard work had turned to dust. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon looked up to the sky and let out a long howl. This howl was full of unwillingness and extreme resentment. At the last moment when the formation was broken, he sensed the source of the power of heaven and earth. It was the little constable, the one possessed by the Thousand Illusions Venerable Master. There was no longer any fear of honored Master Thousand Illusions in his heart. Instead, there was only a towering resentment. I want you dead. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's body turned into a cloud of black mist and swept towards Li Mu. Li Mu's injuries were not light. He could no longer activate the Earth-rank Spirit Strider Talisman. The 18-yin prison Great Formation had been destroyed, and he could no longer use the Mantra Dao technique that he had just comprehended. As the black fog closed in, he mobilized all the magic power in his body and formed a seal with one hand. Just as he was preparing to fight to the death, a white shadow suddenly flew out from the side. It picked up Li Mu and quickly fled into the distance. Li Mu looked at Bai Yinshin who had suddenly appeared. Without hesitation, he stuck the spirit travel talisman on her body and said, "Activate this talisman. He won't be able to catch up to you." As soon as he finished speaking, the 2 of them suddenly increased their speed. Whoosh! Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's face appeared in the black fog behind them. He threw out the steel fork in his hand. This object broke through the air and set off a series of sonic booms. It was even faster than the speed of the spirit travel talisman. The steel fork pierced into Bai Yinshin's shoulder from behind and collapsed into black fog. Bai Yinshin hugged Li Mu. Her body staggered and they both fell to the ground. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's body arrived in an instant and then suddenly stopped. A strong and familiar pressure appeared above his head. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon was no stranger to this pressure. His 18-een prison grate formation had been destroyed by this pressure. He stared at Li Mu with a venomous gaze and gritted his teeth, forcefully using a Dao technique that you can't use yet. Without the obstruction of the grate formation, you will also die. Li Mu stood in front of Bai Xin and said calmly, "Take a step forward and you will also die." Chu Jiang of Gojoseon said in a low voice, "You are not Lord Qianhuan," Li Mu said indifferently. "Qianhuan is already dead. I killed him." Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's heart churned. "Who exactly are you?" "You won't have the chance to know." Li Mu hugged the unconscious Bai Xin and retreated quickly. At the same time, a few powerful auras approached from behind. Feeling those auras, Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's expression changed drastically. He could no longer care about Li Mu and retreated quickly. The 18-een prison grate formation had been destroyed and he had failed to advance. If he met a few enemies of the same level, he would definitely die. A few figures landed beside Li Mu. An old man hurriedly asked, "How is the situation in the county?" Li Mu looked at the North County governor and said briefly, "The 18-een prison grate formation has been destroyed. There are no casualties among the people. Quickly chase after Chu Jiang of Gojoseon." "Good boy, rest first. Wait for me to return." The old man heaved a sigh of relief and laughed loudly. Then, he chased after Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. Xuandu, Xiao Yu, and County Governor Chen did not say anything and left with the old man. The White Demon King looked at Bai Xin with concern and asked, "How is Xin?" Li Mu's right hand emitted a golden light and pressed it on Bai Xin's wound. He said, "Brother Bai, don't worry. I will take good care of her." The White Demon King nodded at him and disappeared on the spot. He chased after Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. County Governor Shen stayed on the spot and said in disbelief, "How was the 18-een prison grate formation broken? How did you stall Chu Jiang of Gojoseon for so long?" Li Mu said, "Now is not the time to talk about this. There are still some vengeful spirits and evil spirits in the county. Lord Shen, you have to get rid of them quickly and stabilize the people." The 18 Nether Prison Grand Formation needed to drive all the citizens of the city to the location of the 18 Ghost Generals. When the Grand Formation was activated, the blood essence and soul of those people would be extracted by the Grand Formation and used by King Chu Jiang, who was at the center of the formation. Li Mu had just tricked Chu Jiang of Gojoseon into personally killing most of the ghosts under him. There were still some ghosts left to drive the people away. The moment the 18-een prison grate formation was destroyed, the 18 Ghost Generals' souls were scattered. In fact, even if it was a normal sacrifice, the final outcome of these 18 Spirit Realm ghosts was no different from the people who were sacrificed. At this moment, all the Fifth Realm experts were chasing after Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. There needed to be someone in charge in the county. After County Governor Shen left, Li Mu used all his mana to heal Bai Xin's injuries. After the ghost fork that Chu Jiang of Gojoseon transformed into injured her, it also left a large amount of Yin ghost qi in her body. Li Mu used all his mana to force out traces of black qi from her body. After a moment, Bai Xin's long eyelashes trembled and her eyes slowly opened. Li Mu had already used up his last bit of mana and collapsed to the ground. Bai Xin helped him up and asked with concern, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." Li Mu shook his head and asked, "How do you feel?" Bai Xin supported Li Mu with one hand and covered her shoulder with the other. She said, "I'm fine." "What did you say to Chu Jiang of Gojoseon? He didn't kill you back then?" "Let's talk about it when we get back. Don't let them worry for too long." Bai Xin nodded. The two of them supported each other and stood up. They slowly walked towards the Yunyan Pavilion. Before they arrived, they saw a few figures running towards them anxiously. Bai Xin silently let go of Li Mu. Bai Xin's cultivation was the highest and she ran the fastest. She appeared in front of Li Mu almost instantly and jumped onto him. Just as her lips were about to land on Li Mu's face, Li Mu reached out his hand in time. She only kissed Li Mu's palm. Bai Xin pulled Bai Xin's ear and pulled her away from Li Mu. Li Mu walked in front of Lu Hanyan and said, "I'm sorry for making you guys worry." Li Mu felt his chest tighten. Lu Hanyan hugged him tightly. She hugged him very hard as if she wanted to fuse their bodies together. At this moment, Li Mu felt an emotion from Lu Hanyan for the first time. This emotion had no color, but it was more beautiful than the most beautiful color in Li Mu's eyes. He reached out and wiped away the tears in Lu Hanyan's eyes. He said, "Don't worry, it's fine." In the county city of North County, the 18-een prison formation was broken. The bailiffs of the county government walked onto the streets to comfort the frightened people. Baiyun Mountain, the ancestral court of Fu Lu School. Late at night, a distant bell rang, waking up countless cultivators in the ancestral court of Fu Lu School. A few streams of light streaked across the sky and landed on the main peak. A few old men with white beards and hair stood in front of the Dao Bell. They looked at each other and were speechless. In front of the main hall of the main peak, a deep crack appeared on the Dao Bell that had been hanging there for an unknown number of years. Chapter 189. Half a year ago, the law bell, which had not rung for years, rang several times a day. After half a year of peace, another woman died with grievances. Before she died, her grievances resonated with the heavens and earth, giving birth to a new Dao technique, causing the law bell to ring again. Not long after, when the law bell rang again, a crack appeared on it. Such a thing had never happened before since the establishment of the Fu Lu School. An old man with white hair and a white beard stood in front of the cracked law bell. His gaze was deep, and he was silent. The head of the fifth branch, Hyun Jinko, walked forward and asked in a low voice, "Senior brother, this," the old man said slowly, "the sound of the law bell is related to the strength of the Dao technique. The stronger the new Dao technique, the louder the sound of the law bell. To be able to crack the law bell, I'm afraid that a powerful Dao technique has been born. It's the North region again." Hyun Jinko said with a serious expression, "I'm afraid this is not a coincidence." The old man looked at a woman in a palace dress and said, "Such a Dao technique will definitely cause a phenomenon in the North region. Junior sister, please go down the mountain and investigate the reason." North region, outside the city. 5 powerful auras surrounded Chu Jiang of Gojosian from 5 directions. The crown on Chu Jiang of Gojosian's head had already fallen off. His hair was disheveled, and his aura was extremely weak. Facing 5 experts of the same level, he had no chance of escaping. The North Region County Governor looked at him and said coldly, "Chu Jiang of Gojosian, surrender." Chu Jiang of Gojosian panted heavily. He looked around and realized that all his escape routes had been sealed. He knew that he could not escape today. He looked up at everyone and said sternly, "If it wasn't for that liar, do you think you can kill me with just trash like you?" They were also well aware that if it weren't for Li Mu holding back Chu Jiang of Gojosian, Chu Jiang of Gojosian would probably have already sacrificed all the citizens of the city and advanced to the 6th realm. At this moment, the roles of hunter and prey would have completely reversed. Until now they still didn't know how Li Mu, a mere 3rd realm cultivator, managed to hold off Chu Jiang of Gojosian for as long as an hour, and how he managed to break the Great 18 hellish prison formation. The White Demon King looked at Chu Jiang of Gojosian and said indifferently, "Unfortunately, there are no ifs." The North County Governor said, "Everyone, attack with all your might and kill this fiend." 5 auras soared into the sky. Chu Jiang of Gojosian stood in the middle, laughing towards the sky. "No one can kill this king. Yu Ming can't, 1,000 illusions can't, and trash like you can't either." As soon as his voice fell, a strong aura fluctuation suddenly came from his body. The North County Governor's expression changed drastically, and he immediately said, "Retreat." Everyone quickly retreated. A powerful destructive force erupted from Chu Jiang of Gojosian's position, destroying all life within a radius of several thousand feet. County City. Li Mu and Bai Xin were both quite injured. Lu Hanyan and Wan Wan supported Li Mu on both sides, while Xiao Bai and Bai Tingxin supported Bai Xin as they returned to their residence. Li Mu lay on the bed, while Lu Hanyan sat at the head of the bed. She didn't say a word as she silently wept. This was the first time Li Mu saw her cry. He held Lu Hanyan's hand and comforted her. "Don't be sad. I'm fine now." Lu Hanyan wiped her tears and sobbed. "If something happened to you, what would Wan Wan and I do?" Li Mu looked at her and asked seriously, "Do you want me to abandon you and run away alone?" He pulled Lu Hanyan into his arms and said, "Have some confidence in your man, okay? A mere Chu Jiang of Gojosian is nothing. Master Chen Huan is more powerful than him, right? In the end, he still fell into my hands." Lu Hanyan leaned against his chest and gently pounded it. "You're still trying to be brave at this time." Li Mu looked at her tear-stained face and kissed her gently. "Believe me, I won't let anyone hurt you." Lu Hanyan did not respond to Li Mu with words. She used her lips to kiss Li Mu's lips. Cough. Bai Tingxin coughed at the door. Lu Hanyan hurriedly got up from Li Mu's body. In front of outsiders, she was still a little shy. She awkwardly wiped her lips and said, "I'll go see Miss Xin." Li Mu glared at Bai Tingxin. It was not easy for Lu Hanyan to take the initiative and be so enthusiastic, but this snake ruined the atmosphere. Bai Tingxin looked back and saw that Lu Hanyan had gone far away. She jumped on the bed and threw herself on Li Mu, kissing his face incessantly. "Shut up." Li Mu mustered his strength and pinched her mouth. He said in shock, "Are you crazy?" Bai Tingxin sat on top of him and snorted. "At that time, I swore that I would marry anyone who could save me. You saved me and my sister from Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. I want to marry you." "Nonsense!" Li Mu glared at her and said, "Did you ask me? Did you ask your aunt?" Bai Tingxin said, "I can be the concubine." Li Mu said angrily, "I'm your uncle. What you're doing is incest. Get off me." Bai Tingxin giggled. "I'm not getting off." This snake was really crazy. Li Mu felt a few familiar breaths approaching quickly. He said, "Your father is here. Get off quickly." Bai Tingxin pouted. "Don't try to lie to me. I'm not getting off." "Tingxin." A majestic voice came from behind. Her body trembled and she immediately jumped off the bed. She stood obediently in the corner and bowed her head. "Father." The White Demon King and Xuandu walked in quickly. They asked with concern, "Third brother, are you okay?" "Don't worry, I won't die." Li Mu smiled and asked, "Where's Chu Jiang of Gojoseon?" County Minister Chen said, "Chu Jiang of Gojoseon knew that he was no match for him, so he self-destructed his soul. It's a pity that Lord Shen won't have the chance to take revenge personally." Li Mu looked at the White Demon King. The White Demon King knew what he was going to say. He smiled and said, "I've already collected the remaining soul power of Chu Jiang of Gojoseon and the 18 ghost generals." County Governor Lin walked forward and said to Li Mu, "You deserve the most credit for North County being able to avoid this calamity. I will personally write a letter to the Imperial Court and ask for a reward for you." Li Mu smiled and said, "As officials of Great Zhou, our duty is to protect the people. This is what we should do." "How did you stall Chu Jiang of Gojoseon tonight?" County Governor Lin finally asked the question in his heart. It was also the question in everyone's heart. Li Mu had already thought of an explanation. He said, "I lied to him and said that there was a level 7 ominous ghost suppressed under the state temple in the county city. If Chu Jiang of Gojoseon sacrificed the people of the county city, the ominous ghost would break out of the seal. At that time, even if he reached level 6, he would still be devoured by the ominous ghost and die." Everyone was shocked. They could not understand why Chu Jiang of Gojoseon would believe Li Mu so easily. Li Mu knew their doubts and continued, "He didn't believe me at first. Later, I pretended to be Monk Chen Huan, and Chu Jiang of Gojoseon no longer suspected me. I lied to him and spent an hour preparing the array to suppress the ominous ghost. That was how I managed to stall him until you all arrived." County Governor Chen was stunned. He said, "You pretended to be Monk Chen Huan?" Li Mu nodded and said, "When I was in Yangqiu County, a wisp of Monk Chen Huan's remnant soul wanted to possess me. Fortunately, a senior master came to my rescue and destroyed Monk Chen Huan's remnant soul. I also obtained some of his remnant memories. In these memories, there were old stories about Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. I used these to deceive him." Li Mu's words were half true and half false. He had a pure young body. When he was in Yangqiu County, Monk Chen Huan had a deep relationship with him. Combined with Li Mu's testimony last time, it was not difficult to explain this matter. Obviously, both County Governor Chen and County Governor Lin were very familiar with the incident of Monk Chen Huan a few months ago. Both of them also knew that Li Mu had a pure young body. Monk Chen Huan had once attacked him, but he was saved by a master whose Taoist name was Laozi. All these were recorded in the case file. County Governor Lin praised, "It's really rare to have such astuteness at such a critical moment." He asked again, "You also broke the 18 hellish prison formation, right?" Li Mu did not deny it. He said, "At that time, Chu Jiang of Gojoseon was ready to sacrifice all the people in the county. If I didn't break the formation, tens of thousands of people in the county would have become the sacrifices of Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. In a hurry, I had to curse the sky with the incantation of truth. I used the force of heaven and earth to break the formation. Actually, most of my injuries were caused by the backlash of the force of heaven and earth. If it were not for the 18 hellish prison formation, I'm afraid I would have been killed by the force of heaven and earth. County Governor Chen was stunned and said in astonishment, "Is that possible?" Li Mu said helplessly, "At that time, the situation was urgent and I had no other choice but to take the risk. Fortunately, I succeeded," County Governor Chen said curiously. "Although the force of heaven and earth is powerful, it is not easy to activate it. Does heaven have a special favor for you?" In a sense, Li Mu was indeed favored by heaven. Every time he recited the Tao Te Ching, heaven wanted him to die on the spot. Li Mu looked at Xiaoyu behind Xuandu and said, "Actually, I was also inspired by Xiaoyu's incident." Xiaoyu looked at Li Mu quietly and did not say anything. Chapter 190. The county governor and the county lieutenant left first. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon had caused a great commotion in the county city tonight. They needed to calm the people down. Xuandu and the White Demon King also left temporarily. Before they left, they transferred a trace of mana into Li Mu's body to heal his injuries. When Xiaoyu left, she winked at Li Mu, meaning that she would not expose him. Only she and Li Mu knew that the power of heaven and earth activated by that Taoist technique was not enough to break the 18 prison formation. However, the Tao Te Ching was Li Mu's biggest trump card. He had relied on it to safely survive 2 fatal situations. It was absolutely impossible for him to show it to others. Although there were some flaws in the half-true and half-false reason he made up, others could not verify it at all. After returning to the county office, County Governor Chen let out a long sigh of relief and said, "That was close. The best thing we've done recently was to transfer Li Mu to the county office. If it wasn't for his quick wit to break the formation by cursing the heavens and stopping Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's plot and saving the people of the city, how can the 2 of us face His Majesty and the people of the North County after tonight?" County Governor Lin looked at him and asked, "Lord Chen, do you really believe that Li Mu broke Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's 18 prison formation by cursing the heavens?" County Governor Chen smiled and said, "Everyone has their secrets. The crisis of the county city has been resolved. Is it important how he broke the formation?" The 2 of them looked at each other and smiled. County Governor Lin said, "Whether Lord Chen believes it or not, I believe it." County Governor Chen laughed and said, "I believe it too." Tonight in the county city of the North County, whether it was the government or the people, it was a sleepless night. The blood-red sky and the wandering evil spirits made countless people tremble in fear when they thought of it. No one knew exactly what had happened. They only vaguely heard from the officials that there was a demonic Tao cultivator who wanted to sacrifice the common people of the county city. In the end, he was stopped by the officials and his plan failed. All the common people of the county city were able to escape this calamity. Currently, the demonic Tao ferocious ghost had been annihilated by the combined efforts of the county governor and the county deputy. The lives of the commoners in the city were no longer in danger. Li Mu climbed up from the bed. The magic power in his body had already recovered a little. Only a few people knew the truth about what happened tonight. The North County official would not spread the news that he had stopped Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's plot and saved the people of the county. This was to protect him. Otherwise, Li Mu would become an important target of the demon sect in the coming days. He walked out of the room and wanted to see Bai Xin, but he found out that Bai Xin and her sister had been taken away by the White Demon King. Bai Xin had saved Li Mu at the critical moment and was injured because of Li Mu. Including the previous misunderstanding, this was the second time she had been seriously injured because of Li Mu. This made Li Mu feel guilty. He wanted to treat her again, but she had already left. It was late at night and the moonlight was bright. In the courtyard, no one was sleepy. Li Mu hugged Xiao Bai, who had transformed into her original form. Lu Hanyan and Wan Wan held his arms on both sides. They sat in the courtyard and looked at the moon above their heads. Lu Hanyan leaned her head on Li Mu's shoulder and suddenly said, "Are we too weak? At the critical moment, we can't help you at all." Li Mu shook his head and said, "The enemy is too strong." The cultivation world was very cruel. The enemies of the soul refinement realm were rarely in the soul refinement realm. Most of the time, the cultivators of the soul refinement realm would have to face experts with a divine ability. Even ordinary people could be involved in the schemes of the creation realm or Dongxian cultivators and die an unjust death. In the past half a year, Li Mu had seen too many such things. The words of the thousand illusions venerable master actually made sense. In this world, the weak had no right to choose. Lu Hanyan's cultivation was actually not weak. She was already comparable to Han Jie and the other disciples of the sect. It was just that she had met Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. Not to mention her, even the North County government, which had 2 creation realm experts, had almost fallen into the hands of Chu Jiang of Gojoseon. Li Mu patted her shoulder and comforted her. Don't think too much. Go to bed early. Last night they went to bed very late. Lu Hanyan and Wan Wan did not sleep well, but Li Mu slept very soundly. The double overdraft of his mental and physical strength made him sleep until noon. After waking up, he felt refreshed. Although the injuries in his body were still not light, he just needed to rest and recuperate. Lu Hanyan went out with the basket and soon came back. The basket was empty. She said with some distress. There is no one on the street. The shops are closed, and there is no one selling vegetables in the market. After what had happened last night, although there were no actual casualties, most of the people were still in shock. It would take at least a few days for the order in the city to be restored. When Li Mu went out, he saw that all the shops were closed. Just as Lu Hanyan had said, there were not many pedestrians on the originally bustling street. The people who lived in the prefecture city had lived a peaceful life. This was probably the first time they had encountered such a situation. The Great Zhou only had 36 prefectures. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon dared to target a prefecture city, right under the nose of the ancestral court of Fu Lu School. He was truly audacious. Perhaps it was because of the importance of the prefecture city that no one had guessed that he would choose the prefecture city. Chu Jiang of Gojoseon did the opposite. Once he successfully advanced, even the Fu Lu School would not be able to catch him so easily. Li Mu walked along the street and headed toward the prefecture government. A woman dressed in palace attire was walking on the empty street. She stopped a passerby and asked, "What happened here? Why are all the shops along the street closed? There is no one on the street." "I don't know." The passerby remembered what had happened last night. Their faces were filled with fear. After shaking their heads, they quickly left. The woman in palace attire looked around in confusion. She counted with her fingers and muttered, "The power of heaven and earth is in chaos. I can't calculate anything. It seems that the source of the crack in the Dao bell is here." After walking for a while, she met another passerby. She went up and stopped him. She asked, "May I ask what happened in the prefecture city? Why is the city like this?" The woman in palace attire in front of him was clearly someone from the Fu Lu School. On the left breast of her palace dress, there was a mysterious seal. This was the seal of the Fu Lu School. It seemed that what had happened last night had already alerted the Fu Lu School. Even if Li Mu did not tell her, she would have been able to find out from the prefecture government. Li Mu could not see through this woman's cultivation at all. This meant that she was at least a creation realm expert. Li Mu coughed softly and said, "Senior, one of the 10 kings of hell under the nether saint of the demon sect, Chu Jiang of Gojoseon, set up the 18 hellish prison formation in the prefecture city last night. He wanted to sacrifice the people of the prefecture city to advance to the 6th realm. The people of the prefecture city were disturbed by Chu Jiang of Gojoseon last night, which is why they are so panicked." The 18 hellish prison formation. The woman in palace attire was shocked. She asked, "The 18 hellish prison formation requires 18 spirit realm ghost cultivators to set it up. Once the formation is successfully set up, it can trap Dongxian to death. Did someone set up the 18 hellish prison formation last night?" Li Mu nodded and said, "The situation in the prefecture city was very dangerous last night. The people of the prefecture city were almost sacrificed by Chu Jiang of Gojoseon." The woman in palace attire had a look of disbelief. She said, "If someone really set up the 18 hellish prison formation, it would be impossible to break it without at least 2 Dongxian experts. How did the prefecture government break this formation?" Li Mu said slowly, "I have to mention that nameless hero." After a while, the woman in palace attire had already heard about the situation in the prefecture city from Li Mu. She took out a Fu Lu and handed it to Li Mu. She said, "Thank you for your explanation. This Fu Lu is for you." Li Mu took the Fu Lu and his eyes lit up. It was an earth rank Fu Lu. Judging from the runes on it, it was an earth rank sword talisman. Although it looked only at the low-grade earth rank, it could kill anyone below the fate realm with one strike. The Fu Lu was not very useful to Li Mu. He could give it to Lu Hanyan to protect herself. She was indeed a master of the Fulu school. She was much more generous than the prefecture government. Li Mu wanted to thank her, but when he looked up, the woman in palace attire had disappeared. Li Mu put away the Fulu happily and saw Li Si and Chen Miao Miao walking over hand in hand. Li Si stepped forward and asked, "I heard from my father-in-law that you were injured. Are you okay?" Li Mu said, "It's just a small injury. It's nothing serious." County Minister Chen clearly did not reveal anything to Li Si. The three of them walked all the way to the prefecture government. Before they stepped in, they heard a conversation in the courtyard. In the front yard of the prefecture government, County Governor Lin bowed to the woman in palace attire and said, "Greetings, Daoist Yuzenzi." The woman in palace attire smiled and said, "Long time no see, County Governor." After exchanging pleasantries, County Governor Lin asked, "May I know why Daoist Yuzenzi is here?" The woman in palace attire said, "I heard about what happened in the prefecture capital last night. This time, I came down the mountain on the orders of Senior Brother Sect Master for this matter." County Governor Lin sighed and said, "Sect Master's Daoist Dharma is profound." He was far away at Baiyun Mountain, but he could still predict what happened in the North County. That's not the case. The woman in palace attire shook her head and said, "Yesterday, a new Daoist technique was born in the North County and caused the Dao Bell to crack. This time, I came down the mountain because of the damage to the Dao Bell. Now it seems that the damage to the Dao Bell on the main peak of Baiyun Mountain should be related to what happened in the prefecture capital last night." Li Si stood at the entrance of the prefecture government. He turned to look at Li Mu and asked, "Why are you standing outside? Aren't you going in?" Li Mu squeezed out a smile and said, "You go in first. I suddenly remembered that I came out to buy groceries. I'll go buy groceries first." Chapter 191. Li Mu had once heard from Li Qing that there was a Dao Bell on the main peak of Mount Baiyun. This Dao Bell was an important treasure of Fulu School. It had been there since the founding of Fulu School. Whenever a new Dao technique was created, it would draw upon the power of heaven and earth. No matter how far away it was, the Dao Bell could sense it. He learned from Li Qing that more than half a year ago, when Li Mu courted death by experimenting with Dao techniques in Yangqiu County, the Dao Bell rang incessantly on the main peak of Mount Baiyun. Now it had cracked. Li Mu's Dao Bell had cracked as well. The value of Fulu School's Dao Bell was immeasurable. Even if Li Mu was sold, he would not be able to afford it. He did not know if the imperial court would take responsibility. After all, Li Mu had not intentionally damaged it. He had done it for the sake of the tens of thousands of people in the county capital. If Mount Baiyun was a little reasonable, it would not make him pay. If the imperial court had a shred of morality, it would not make a hero bleed and spend money. How powerful was Fulu School? They could hide for a while, but not forever. Li Mu turned around and walked 2 steps before turning back. County Governor Lin saw Li Mu walk in and said to the woman, "The destruction of your Dao Bell was caused by the power of heaven and earth. You can't blame anyone else, right?" The woman said, "County Governor, you misunderstand. This humble Daoist did not descend the mountain to pursue the matter. This humble Daoist was ordered by the sect master to understand the whole story." Hearing that he did not need to pay for the Dao Bell, Li Mu heaved a sigh of relief. "I see." County Governor Lin smiled and pointed at Li Mu. He said to the woman, "Since Daoist Yuzhen wants to understand the whole story of yesterday's matter, you should ask Li Mu directly." The woman turned around and said in surprise, "It's you." Li Mu bowed and said, "Greetings, Senior Yuzhen." Yuzhen counted with his fingers and said in surprise, "So you are that nameless hero." Li Mu said in shame, I dare not." Yuzhen asked, "Was it you who broke the 18 nether prison grate array?" Li Mu cleared his throat and repeated what he said last night. Yuzhen thought for a moment and said, "This poor Daoist remembers now. Last time, the one who pointed at the sky and cursed and taught a peerless evil spirit that slaughtered a county magistrate's entire family was also you, right? Li Mu. This junior is ashamed." "You don't have to feel ashamed." Yuzhen Zi looked at him a few more times and said, "Since ancient times, there have been many people who have cursed the heavens and complained about the earth. However, you are the first one who has cursed the heavens to this extent." Li Mu was slightly delighted. It seemed that this Daoist Yuzhen Zi was quite easy to fool. However, in the next moment, the woman's tone changed. She said, Although the heavenly Tao has a spirit, other than being activated by Taoist techniques, even if a cultivator points at the sky and curses, they rarely receive a response, let alone activating the power of the world that can destroy the 18 prison formation. County Governor Lin raised his eyebrows and asked, Taoist Yuzhen Zi, do you not believe me? Yuzhen Zi said, unless he proves it again, it will be very difficult for others to believe. If he could prove it in front of Yuzhen Zi and County Governor Lin, then no one would doubt the matter of him breaking Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's formation. Li Mu thought for a moment and said, proving it is not difficult. However, without the obstruction of the 18 prison great array, this junior cannot bear the backlash of the power of the world alone. Yuzhen Zi said, you can prove it to me. I will protect you. She threw out a bronze bell. The bronze bell spun a few times and turned into a giant bell. It floated above Li Mu's head and emitted a faint golden light that enveloped Li Mu. Li Mu looked up. This giant bell gave him a sense of security that was not inferior to Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's great array. This woman in palatial attire was most likely a Dongxian expert of Lu school. County Governor Lin took a step forward and said, Taoist Yuzhen Zi is the head of Baiyun Peak. His cultivation has already reached the peak of Dongxian. If it is convenient for you to prove it, feel free to give it a try. If it is not convenient, I believe Taoist Yuzhen Zi will not make things difficult for a junior like you. Baiyun Peak was the first lineage of Lu school. Li Mu had guessed that this woman in palatial attire was very strong. However, he did not expect her to be an expert on the same level as Venerable Thousand Illusions. Yuzhen Zi looked at Li Mu and said, this bell is a heaven-ranked magic treasure. It can withstand a strike from a transcendent expert. You can be at ease. This was a chance for him to dispel everyone's suspicions. Li Mu naturally would not let it go so easily. He thought for a moment. He formed a seal with one hand in his sleeve and pointed to the sky with the other. He said loudly, Earth, you do not distinguish good from bad. What is earth? Heaven, you are wrong to judge the virtuous and foolish to be the heaven. At the same time, he used a forbidden technique in his heart to recite, the Tao can be the Tao, but it is not the eternal Tao. Buzz. Just as he finished speaking, the sound of a bell rang in Li Mu's ears. The loud sound of the bell caused his scalp to go numb. A not very strong energy surged into his body. Li Mu's injuries hadn't healed yet, so he coughed up another mouthful of blood. He wiped the corner of his mouth and looked at Yuzhen Zi with a bitter expression. What happened to being at ease? Yuzhen Zi was also stunned. She looked at the deep crack on the giant bell and a pained expression appeared on her face. However, she quickly came to her senses and put away the giant bell. She walked forward and held Li Mu's wrist. Li Mu felt a gentle force surging into his body. The injuries in his body rapidly improved under this force and soon, he was completely healed. He was still worried that she would be angry if her bell was broken. Now, it seemed that this Taoist Yuzhen Zi was a reasonable person. Yuzhen Zi let go of his hand and said in shock, how can this be? Why can you trigger such a powerful force of heaven and earth? This should not be. Li Mu shrugged and said, I don't know either. Could this be the blessing of the heavens? Yuzhen Zi looked at him with a strange expression. Pure yang, pure yin, 5 elements physique, innate spirit eyes, and the ability to control fire and water. This was the true blessing of the heavens. People with these physiques were born with extraordinary cultivation talent. When they cultivated, they would achieve twice the results with half the effort. As long as one pointed to the sky and cursed, it would attract such a powerful force of heaven and earth. What kind of blessing was this? This was not the blessing of the heavens, but the wrath of the heavens. No one would hope to receive such a blessing. However, this seemingly useless ability had saved tens of thousands of people in the northern county. Such a powerful force of heaven and earth could directly destroy the 18 prison array from the outside and interrupt the ghost cultivator's sacrifice. Otherwise, even if there were cultivators from Dongxian present, they would not be able to change the outcome of tens of thousands of people being sacrificed. In the unseen world, everything seemed to be destined. County Chief Lin did not believe it at first, but when he saw this scene, he was stunned on the spot for a long time. He muttered, could it be that he was targeted by the heavens because he cursed the heavens? This doesn't make sense. Yuzhen Zi was puzzled. The same Tao technique was used by the evil spirit with incomparable power. As the creator, he was punished by the heavens. Could it be that he is the person punished by the heavens? the physique of the heavens. Li Mu looked indifferent. As long as this matter could be resolved, he would accept that he was the person punished by the heavens. Yu Zhenzi and County Chief Lin were puzzled, but Li Mu was depressed. There were countless experts in the Fu school and so many experts in the imperial court. However, be it Venerable Master Thousand Illusions' plan or Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's plot, they were all resolved by him, a mere cultivator in the lower three realms. What made him most unhappy was that after resolving these matters, he still needed to come up with a reasonable explanation and prove to everyone. Lu Hanyan walked in from outside and looked at Li Mu. She said unhappily, "Your body hasn't recovered yet, why are you out again?" Yu Zhenzi and the county chief only cared about how he broke Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's array. Only Lu Hanyan cared about his body. Li Mu held her hand and said, "Let's go home." Lu Hanyan was held by Li Mu. When they were about to walk out of the county office, she turned back to look at Yu Zhenzi. Yu Zhenzi also turned his head and looked at Lu Hanyan with a puzzled gaze. "Wait." Yu Zhenzi suddenly spoke. Li Mu stopped and asked, "Senior, is there anything else?" Yu Zhenzi walked forward and sized up Lu Hanyan. Lu Hanyan also sized up Yu Zhenzi. The woman in palatial attire in front of her gave her a very amiable feeling. Yu Zhenzi seemed to realize something as a hint of joy appeared on his face. He asked, "You have a purine body?" Chapter 192. Lu Hanyan's expression changed slightly when the woman in palace attire saw through her constitution. She hid behind Li Mu. Li Mu's expression was strange. He was now clear that apart from the earth element, the other 6 types of physiques did not have any obvious characteristics. Even the experts of Dongxian would not be able to see through them at a glance. Even with the strength of Master Qian Huan, he still needed to go undercover in the county government and check the household register to find them. People's hearts were sinister. The purine body could not be known to outsiders. However, this expert of Fulu school did not want Li Mu to pay for the broken bell, so it was impossible for him to have any thoughts about Lu Hanyan. Li Mu introduced to Lu Hanyan, "Don't worry, this is Taoist Yu Zhenzi of Fulu school, a peak expert of Dongxian. He won't do anything to you." Lu Hanyan then bowed to Yu Zhenzi and said, "Greetings, Taoist Yu Zhenzi." Yu Zhenzi stepped forward and gently held Lu Hanyan's wrist. With a happy expression he said, "You are indeed a purine body. Are you willing to enter Fulu school and cultivate with me?" Li Mu shielded Lu Hanyan behind him and said, "We appreciate Senior's kindness. She is my fiancée and has no plans to enter any sect." Yu Zhenzi's gaze swept over Li Mu and finally looked at Lu Hanyan. He said, "You should be able to sense that I am the same as you, a purine body. With your physique, ordinary Taoist techniques can only speed up your cultivation by several times. If you are willing to inherit my mantle and cultivate a purine cultivation method, you can enter the middle 3 realms within a year. Within 10 years, there is hope for good fortune." Yu Zhenzi handed a jade stone to Lu Hanyan and said, "I will wait for you for 3 days. Within these 3 days, no matter what decision you make, as long as you crush this spiritual jade, I will come to find you." After Li Mu thanked Yu Zhenzi, he took Lu Hanyan and left. When they began their true dual cultivation, it would not be difficult for both of them to enter the divine powers realm within a year. Although in the middle 3 realms, each advancement would take decades, and if one's aptitude was not good, they would be stuck at the divine powers realm for the rest of their lives. However, with their physique, they could absorb spiritual jades during the day and cultivate yin and yang dual cultivation for 10 years. In the county government office, County Governor Lin asked, Taoist, do you want to accept a disciple?" Yu Zhenzi looked in the direction that Lu Hanyan had left in and said, "Pure yang is easy to find but pure yin is hard to find. Those foolish women and men who gave birth to purine girls would think that they were ominous people and would either abandon them or drown them. Those who were lucky enough to survive would easily die young. It is extremely difficult to meet a successor." When Li Mu and Lu Hanyan returned home, Xuandu was sitting in the courtyard. He stood up and said, "I will return to the Jinshan temple first. When third brother's injuries are healed, you can come to the Jinshan temple to find me." After Chu Jiang of Gojoseon self-destructed, his spiritual sense had dissipated. Only his remaining soul force had been collected by the White Demon King. The moment the 18 prison array was broken, the 18 ghost generals had been wiped away by the power of heaven and earth, leaving only their soul force. Li Mu said, "Why don't we go to Brother Bai's place now?" Xuandu shook his head. "But your injuries. Li Mu smiled and said, I just met Daoist Yuzhen Zi at the county government office. She has already completely healed my injuries. Xuandu was stunned and asked, Daoist Yuzhen Zi of Fulu School? Li Mu asked, Second brother, do you know her? Of course. Xuandu nodded and said, 50 years ago, Daoist Yuzhen Zi was already famous in the cultivation world. She is proficient in Fulu and her Daoist techniques are profound. One of the original 10 elders of the demon sect died in her hands. Her cultivation has already reached the peak of Dongxian and is only a step away from transcending. Li Mu knew that Yuzhen Zi's cultivation was so high that her actual age was definitely not as young as she looked. However, he did not expect that she had already dominated the cultivation world 50 years ago. Now, if she was not 80 years old, she was at least 100 years old. Xuandu put a hand on Li Mu's shoulder and checked his injuries. He found that his injuries were indeed healed. He nodded and said with a smile, In that case, let's go find Brother Bai as soon as possible. He has already waited for nearly 20 years. We can't let him wait any longer. Xiao Yu also stayed in the prefecture city for the time being. Li Mu said to Lu Hanyan, I'll go to Brother Bai's place first. I'll be back tomorrow at the latest. Lu Hanyan nodded and said, I'll wait for you at home. Li Mu and Xuandu left. Lu Hanyan walked back to her room and sat in front of the table. Her eyes gradually lost focus. When Chu Jiang of Gojoseon arrived last night, a deep sense of powerlessness emerged in her heart again. At that time, she could only watch as Chu Jiang of Gojoseon captured by Yin Xin and her sister. When Li Mu faced Chu Jiang of Gojoseon alone, she could only hide in the shop and worry for Li Mu. Other than that, she could do nothing. She was silent for a moment and stretched out her hand. A piece of spiritual jade lay quietly in her palm. North County. A nameless mountain. Inside the ice cave, Xuandu placed his hand on Li Mu's shoulder. Li Mu's forehead was covered in sweat. He channeled his magic power with all his might and sent the golden light into the ice coffin. This ice coffin resisted the Buddhist light, but it did not resist soul power. The moment the White Demon King took out the soul power of Chu Jiang of Gojoseon and the 18 ghost generals, it was sucked into the coffin. The soul power was gradually absorbed by the woman in the ice coffin. Her originally extremely pale face gradually recovered a trace of redness. Bai Xin stood beside Li Mu. She took out a white handkerchief from her bosom and carefully wiped the sweat off his forehead. Bai Xin took a look and also took out a green handkerchief to help him wipe off the sweat on his temples. The woman in the coffin was actively absorbing the ownerless soul power. As her soul became more and more solid, the Buddhist light's effect became greater and greater. The White Demon King looked at the woman's face in the coffin with an extremely nervous expression. The woman's eyelashes trembled. Finally, at a certain moment, she slowly opened her eyes. The White Demon King said excitedly, Yeah, The lid of the ice coffin slowly opened. The woman sat up in the coffin. The blankness in her eyes gradually disappeared. She slowly looked at the White Demon King and muttered, Husband? Li Mu and Xuandu left the ice cave at the right time. A moment later, a few figures walked out of the cave. The woman with 2 horns on her head bowed to Li Mu and Xuandu and said, Greetings, uncles. Xuandu only smiled. Li Mu also smiled and said, We're all brothers. Sister-in-law, there's no need to be so polite. The White Demon King smiled and said, If it weren't for second brother and third brother, and I probably wouldn't have been able to meet again. You must accept this bow from us husband and wife. The two of them held hands and bowed to Li Mu and Xuandu. The White Demon King then said to the Bai sisters, You should also thank the 2 uncles. The 2 sisters could only bow and say, Thank you, uncles. Li Mu raised his hands and said with a smile, Congratulations on your family's reunion, big brother. It's all thanks to you. The White Demon King smiled and said, Today is a great day. Let us drink to our heart's content. Although Li Mu's magic power increased quickly, his alcohol tolerance was still average. After drinking a few cups with the green ox spirit and tiger spirit, he felt a little dizzy. This was not an ordinary wine. It contained spiritual energy. Drinking it could increase one's magic power, but it could not be used to sober up. Bai Xin ran over from the side and filled Li Mu's cup. Li Mu waved his hand and said, I can't drink any more. Bai Xin raised the cup and brought it to Li Mu's mouth and said, This wine was brewed by Uncle Ho using spirit fruits. Drinking it can increase your magic power. Drink more, drink more. Not long after, Li Mu lay motionless on the table. Bai Tingxin helped Li Mu up and said to the White Demon King, "Father, Uncle Li Mu is drunk. I'll take him to rest." The White Demon King waved his hand and said, "Third brother's alcohol tolerance is really hard to explain. Go." A devious smile appeared on Bai Tingxin's face. She carried Li Mu and walked into a bamboo house. She placed Li Mu on a bed with a green gauze curtain. She lowered her head and looked at him. She felt that his face was handsome no matter how she looked at it. It was not easy to get him drunk. This time, there was no one around, so she could do whatever she wanted. Bai Tingxin pouted and moved closer to Li Mu's mouth. She suddenly felt pain in her ear. She turned around and looked at Bai Yinxin with dissatisfaction and asked, "Sister, what are you doing?" Bai Yinxin pulled her ear and dragged her away from the bed. She said, "What am I doing? Do you still want to ask? What are you doing?" "I'm kissing him," Bai Tingxin said matter-of-factly. "Can't you see?" Bai Yinxin said angrily, "As a woman, don't you have any sense of shame?" Bai Tingxin said, "I'm not human." Bai Yinxin's chest heaved up and down. She said, "Didn't you say that he's just so-so and that you want to wander the world and see more men?" "I realized that I was wrong," Bai Tingxin said. "After seeing more men, I realized that he's still the best. He can help us cultivate and protect us." Bai Yinxin said, "How many men have you seen?" Bai Tingxin shook her head and said, "I don't care. Anyway, I swore that I'll marry whoever saves us." Bai Yinxin advised, "Love is a matter between two people. You can't force a melon to be sweet. You can't do this." Bai Tingxin said indifferently, "Who cares if it's sweet or not? I'll twist it first. Get out of here." Bai Yinxin pulled her ear and brought her out of the room. She closed the door and said, "If you continue to be like this, I'll tell father and let him punish you by going into seclusion. You can only come out after 10 years. 10 years. Bai Tingxin suddenly looked at her and asked, "Do you want to lock me up and take all of it for yourself?" Bai Yinxin said angrily, "I think you're itching for a beating. I'll teach you a good lesson today." When Li Mu woke up, he found himself lying on a soft bed. The quilt covering his body had Bai Tingxin's scent. He vaguely remembered that Bai Tingxin seemed to have been drinking him last night. Li Mu drank a lot. He did not know what happened after that. Li Mu was shocked and quickly sat up from the bed. He found that his clothes were intact and there was nothing wrong with them. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. It seemed that although the snake was a little crazy, it had not reached the point of madness. After he got up, the door opened from the outside. Bai Yinxin brought him hot water and Bai Tingxin put breakfast on the table. After Li Mu washed up simply, he saw that they were still sitting there. He said, "Sit down." Bai Yinxin sat down opposite Li Mu. Bai Tingxin touched her butt and stood obediently. Li Mu looked up and asked, "Aren't you going to sit?" Bai Tingxin shook her head. "I like to stand." Li Mu looked at Bai Yinxin and asked, "How's your injury?" Bai Yinxin covered her shoulder and said, "Much better." Li Mu stood up and walked over. He said, "Let me take a look." He walked behind Bai Yinxin and placed his right hand on her shoulder. A golden light appeared on his hand. She was injured by Chu Jiang of Gojoseon's attack. Actually, her injury was more serious than Li Mu's. Li Mu helped her force out the Yin ghost qi in her body. His mana was completely exhausted. Only after checking again did he know that her injury was still not light. Bai Yinxin dodged subconsciously. But when Li Mu's hand glowed with a golden light, the warm and numb feeling came again. Her face turned red and she sat there quietly. Bai Tingxin looked at Bai Yinxin enviously and said to Li Mu, "I'm injured too." Bai Yinxin's injury was caused by Li Mu. It was fundamentally different from her. Li Mu waved his hand and said, "My mana is limited. I can only help one. You take your time to recover." Chapter 193. You're biased. Bai Tingxin put her hands on her hips and expressed her extreme dissatisfaction with Li Mu. Recalling the scene of Bai Tingxin pouring wine on him last night, Li Mu shook his head and said, "If only you were half as obedient as your sister." When he first met Bai Yinxin, she was not much better than Bai Tingxin. During this period of time, Li Mu felt that she had changed from a naive little girl to a sensible and obedient girl. Comparing the two, Li Mu could not help but be biased. After a quarter of an hour, under Bai Tingxin's envious gaze, Li Mu withdrew his hand. Bai Yinshin's complexion also improved a lot. With the physique of a demon, the rest of her injuries could be completely healed after a period of rest. After breakfast, Li Mu and Xuandu said their goodbyes. Bai Yinshin and her sister's family had just been reunited. As outsiders, it was better not to disturb them. White Demon King took a jade box from the tiger demon and handed it to Xuandu. He said, "This is for second brother. Thank you for reuniting us." Xuandu did not reach out to take it. He shook his head and said, "Brother White, you're too polite. This is what brothers should do." White Demon King said, "This is a relic left behind by a 7th grade Prajna monk after he passed away. We cultivate the demon path. It's useless to leave it here." Xuandu was stunned for a moment. He reached out to take it and said, "In that case, I'll accept it." The relic of a 7th grade monk could not only be used as a magic treasure, but also to comprehend the realm of Buddhism. If it was in the hands of the Fugu school, it would be a top-grade talisman crafting material. It would be easy to craft a heaven-grade talisman. Li Mu clicked his tongue in wonder. This kind of thing was a precious treasure in Buddhism. It seemed that his big brother's wealth was far richer than Li Mu imagined. At this time, White Demon King took out an exquisite jade box from the Green Bull Demon and placed it in Li Mu's hand. He said, "There's a pair of magic treasures inside. I'll give them to third brother and sister-in-law." Li Mu opened the jade box and saw a pair of white jade rings inside. The 2 rings had a hollow design and an exquisite shape. The details were slightly different. One ring had a golden dragon embossed on it, while the other had a colorful phoenix wrapped around it. At first glance, it was obvious that they were a couple's magical treasures. The White Demon King explained, "This is a pair of Flask Heaven Dharma treasures. The space inside is about the size of a house. It can be used for storage." Li Mu was taken aback and hurriedly said, "This is too expensive." The Flask Heaven art was a divine ability that could only be cultivated by a transcendent expert. It could be used to store anything and everything, and could also be used to create dimensions or immortals' caves. Only peak transcendent experts could use it to create magical treasures. The Flask Heaven treasures were all heaven-ranked treasures, and were so precious that Li Mu couldn't accept them with a clear conscience. The White Demon King smiled and said, "Take it. It's just a Dharma treasure. It's nothing." Under his insistence, Li Mu finally accepted the jade box. On the way to leave with Xuandu, Li Mu couldn't help but sigh. Brother Bai is really rich. Among the 3 brothers, Xuandu traveled the world with a Buddhist staff and an alms bowl. Li Mu's flying boat was rewarded by the county government, and Bai Yi was given to him by Li Qing. Everything he had before was either given or freeloaded. On the other hand, the White Demon King gave away a Buddhist sacred item and a pair of heaven-ranked magical treasures. Compared to him, Li Mu and Xuandu were really younger brothers. Xuandu also sighed and said, "It's said that the dragon race has many treasures. It seems that it's true." The Bai sisters' father was a snake, and their mother was a dragon. A snake actually managed to hook up with a dragon. No matter how one looked at it, this didn't seem like something Brother Bai would do. Speaking of which, the sisters also had half the blood of the dragon race. They didn't know if they would have a chance to become a dragon in the future. After returning to the county capital, Xuandu took Xiaoyu back to the Jinshan temple and continued to use Buddhist methods to purify the evil qi in her body. Li Mu could have taken a long vacation to recuperate, but Constable Zhao said that the county governor wanted him to go to the county government to receive his reward. Li Mu went to the county government as soon as possible. After not seeing County Governor Shen for 2 days, Li Mu felt that he was completely different. In the past, County Governor Shen always reeked of alcohol and had a decadent temperament. Now, he was full of energy and was like an unsheathed sword, sharp and threatening. Li Mu asked tentatively, "Sir, have you reached the creation realm?" County Governor Shen didn't deny it. He smiled and said, "Let's go. This is the reward from the county government. Other than that, the reward from the imperial court should be coming soon." Li Mu followed County Governor Shen back to the Earth Pavilion. He guessed that he had saved all the people in the county, which was much more important than killing a few ghost generals. If the county government didn't let him choose 8 or 10 things from the Earth Pavilion, it would be a waste of his efforts. County Governor Shen glanced at the rows of wooden shelves in the Earth Pavilion and said, "The county governor said that you can take as many things as you can within 10 breaths." Li Mu was stunned for a moment and asked, "Is that true?" County Governor Shen said, Since the county governor said so, you can take them without worry. The county governor didn't directly specify the number of things he could take. He must have considered that his contribution was too great. If he said too little, it would seem that he was stingy. If he said too much, the county government would lose too much. Li Mu was given 10 breaths. How much he could take would depend on his own ability. Li Mu asked in the end, "Does the county governor mean that everything I can take within 10 breaths is mine?" County Governor Shen nodded and said, "I suggest you take a closer look and choose what you want before you start." Li Mu shook his head and said, "There's no need. I can start now." Commandant Shen said, "All right. From now on, everything you can get from the Earth Pavilion will be yours for the next 10 breaths." Li Mu touched the ring on his finger. A white light flashed from the ring, and in the next moment, the Earth Pavilion became empty. The talismans, pills, magic treasures, and mountains of spirit jades were all gone. Even the wooden shelves that they were placed on were gone. Commandery Captain Shen looked around and finally fixed his gaze on Li Mu. Li Mu rubbed his hands and said embarrassedly, "The county governor is too polite." Although the county governor was polite, Li Mu couldn't be too greedy. In the end, he returned some things, such as the magic weapons, pills, thunder talismans, and shelves that he didn't need. As for the high-grade spiritual jades, he didn't leave a single one behind. Not long after, County Governor Lin rushed over after hearing the news. He looked at the empty Earth Pavilion and said in disbelief, "He took so much in 10 breaths?" Actually, he only took 1 breath. County Governor Shen said, "I didn't expect him to have the Flask Heaven Dharma treasure." County Governor Lin slapped his thigh and said regretfully, "I was careless. Forget it." County Governor Shen shook his head and said, "Since these things are gone, we can ask for more from the imperial court." Without him, the tens of thousands of lives in the county would have been killed by King Chujiang. What's the use of these dead things? Li Mu returned home and poured out a large pile of spiritual jades in front of Yu Hanyun, Wan Wan, and Little White. Yu Hanyun said in shock, "Didn't you go to the county office? Did you rob it?" Li Mu had almost emptied the Earth Pavilion. It could be said that it was a robbery, but the county governor had tacitly agreed to it. After distributing the spiritual jades to Wan Wan and Little White, Yu Hanyun pulled Li Mu into the room. After hesitating for a moment, she looked up at Li Mu and said, "I want to go to White Cloud Mountain." Li Mu looked at her in surprise and asked, "Why?" Yu Hanyun lowered her head and said, "I don't want to be behind you every time we encounter danger. That night, I wanted to go out and help you so much, but I couldn't do anything. I'm your future wife, but I could only watch Miss Bai save you. I don't want to be a burden to you. No matter what danger we encounter, I want to face it with you." Li Mu looked at Yu Hanyun but couldn't say anything to comfort her. At this moment, he felt a strong sense of love from her. Li Mu didn't take the opportunity to absorb her love. Instead, he pulled her into his arms and asked softly, "But this way we won't be able to see each other often." Yu Hanyun looked up and said, "1 year. I'll only cultivate with Taoist Yuzenzi for 1 year. After a year, when I've learned the cultivation method of the pure Yin body, I'll go down the mountain to find you. At that time you'll marry me," Li Mu said. "But this year we can't dual cultivate every night." Yu Hanyun rested her head on his chest and said softly, "It's only 1 year. It's nothing to bear with it." Li Mu knew that Yu Hanyun found it harder to control her desire for dual cultivation than he did. However, she was also the one who suggested going to White Cloud Mountain to cultivate. Her body was filled with love. At this moment, Li Mu finally understood what Li Si's words meant. Liking was liking, love was love, liking was possession, love was giving, liking was unbridled and willful, love was restraint and tolerance. Li Si had once said that Li Mu needed to get married to Yu Hanyun and spend a few years together before he could understand the true meaning of love. The life and death crisis brought by King Chujiang had brought forward this time by a few years. Li Mu lowered his head and asked with a smile, "Aren't you afraid that I'll fall in love with other vixens while you're away?" The tears on Yu Hanyun's face had yet to dry. She pinched Li Mu's waist fiercely and said angrily, "You dare!" Li Mu flipped his hand and a jade box appeared in his palm. Under Yu Hanyun's surprised gaze, he opened the jade box and took out the rainbow phoenix ring. He knelt on one knee and raised his head to look at her, asking, "Miss Yu Hanyun, are you willing to marry me? P.S. At this point, if there are still people who think that this plot is feeding you *T and poisoning you, then you really don't need to continue reading. As the author, I advise you from the bottom of my heart. I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. I don't have any intention of ridicule or anything else. Don't read anymore, don't read anymore, don't read anymore. This book isn't suitable for you. Everyone's money doesn't grow on trees. Isn't it better to subscribe to a book that doesn't feed you sh*t and poison you? As for those who are guessing the plot and setting later and ridiculing the author, please stop. This is the biggest stupidity.